Chapter 453. Ha! Shiori looked at Wu Yan, Toka, Kotori and Yoshino in surprise. She asked with uncertainty. Hot springs? Yes. Yes. Wu Yan sighed. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the surprised Shiori. When he was bathing with Yoshino last night, Wu Yan was thinking about how the protagonist went to a hot spring with a few elf girls in the original work. He wondered if he would have the chance to enjoy the same benefits. Who would have thought that the thought that flashed through his mind would actually come true? It can't be helped. He can't bathe multiple times in one night. He already took a bath with Yoshino last night. When Toka asked to bathe together, Wu Yan couldn't do it. Although the request is tempting and Wu Yan is willing, Kotori was there at the time. The bathing incident was supposed to end like this, but Toka seemed to have gotten serious. He made a big fuss and insisted on bathing with Wuxia even if he had to die. Kotori almost changed into a black satin belt to keep the situation under control. Thus Wu Yan yelled out loud. Why don't we all go to the hot springs together tomorrow? That way we can all bathe together. This sentence spread throughout the bathroom, causing everyone to quiet down. In the end, it was actually decided just like that. That was why the scene before them was happening. Hot springs. Shiori couldn't help but fall silent, her heart faintly moved. For girls, hot springs were always a very attractive place. Even Shiori was no exception. But the problem is mixed baths. Shiori carefully looked at Wu Yan. Her eyes flickered. It's like she's looking at a good youth who's about to go astray. Wu Yan's mouth twitched. However, Shiori's question made him swallow all the words he wanted to say. After all, their goal this time is indeed to soak in the mixed bath. Shiori saw Wu Yan's silence. She knew what the answer is. Her expression became strange. At the same time, the way she looked at the three girls changed to that of Wu Yan. Toka is fine. She moved in as Wu Yan's girlfriend, so it's reasonable for her to go to the mixed baths with her boyfriend. Yoshino is nothing out of the ordinary to Shiori. Yoshino is just a kid. He had already taken a bath with her last night, so it didn't matter if he took a mixed bath again. But what's with Kotori? Isn't she his sister? She's going to have a mixed bath too? Although it wasn't that there weren't siblings who were close enough to bathe together, that was something that only happened when they were young, right? It's not like there aren't any who have grown up, but Shiori still feels strange. Under Shiori's strange gaze, Kotori couldn't help but feel embarrassed. She buried her head and couldn't say anything. She began to hate herself. What was wrong with her that she agreed to go with them? Wu Yan's gaze is also a bit evasive. After all, this is like a scumbag trying to capture a girl. It's really embarrassing, especially under the gaze of the other girl. In this silent atmosphere, after a long time, Shiori scratched her little face and sighed. Then you guys go, I'll wait at home for you guys to come back. Shiori didn't know if it was just her imagination, but she felt like the four people in front of her seemed to be relieved after she said those words. Of course, if Shiori goes with them, then they will be under a lot of pressure. On the way to the hot spring hotel, Toka and Yoshino are like two curious babies who have never seen anything before. They're curious about everything. They kept pointing here and there. They're very energetic. Fortunately, they're not asking Wu Yan, otherwise Wu Yan would be mentally and physically exhausted even if he's about to take a mixed bath. Wu Yan didn't know what Kotori told Ratatosker about this hot spring trip. Ratatosker is paying for all the expenses. Even Murasame Rain was hired as a driver. Wu Yan didn't know what to think about this. If Kotori really wants to tell Ratatosker something, she'll definitely switch back to commander mode. Once she switches back to commander mode with her arrogant personality, would she still agree to take a mixed bath with Wu Yan? Wu Yan doesn't know either, but in the end, Wu Yan took advantage of the situation and didn't even need to spend money. Just like in the original work, under the lead of Murasame Rain, everyone arrived at the hot spring hotel. Of course, there were no AST people here to cause trouble. Shiori did not follow them and Tokichi Origami had nothing to do with them. Naturally, she would not bring a group of AST people here to soak in the hot spring. Of course, the battle between Ratatosker and AST in the original work would not happen. It's worth mentioning that Yoshino has returned to Yoshino's side. On this trip to the hot spring, Yoshino kept chirping, scolding Wu Yan from time to time, and attacking Toka and Kotori. This made the group hate this filthy rabbit. Wu Yan can't do anything about it. He took advantage of Yoshino's absence and conquered her while she was away. He even sealed her power in the process. It's only natural that Yoshino would be dissatisfied with him. When the group arrived at their destination, the sky was already turning yellow. This is the best time to take a bath in the hot spring. Wu Yan and the others really know how to pick a good time. In the hot spring hotel booked by Ratatosker, the group soon arrived at the hot spring. Looking at the hot spring, Wu Yan, Kotori, Toka, Yoshino and Yoshino were all happy. As for Rain Murasame, she disappeared for some reason. Wu Yan looked at Kotori, Toka and Yoshino. He coughed and pretended to be serious. Alright, get ready to change your clothes. Kotori and Toka shuddered. They blushed when they heard Wu Yan's words. They actually started acting bashful at a time like this. Do we have to do it now? Kotori hesitated and said. It seems like she's going to change her mind. Wu Yan sighed. After all, in the original work, Kotori jumped into the water with Shido even though she was in commander mode with a towel wrapped around her. Well, you can wait. Wu Yan didn't seem to care. But when we are done, I don't think we will wait for you. Kotori pursed her lips and her little face fell. The 2 white ribbons on her head also became listless, making her look quite adorable. In the end, Kotori decided to jump into the water. Shido. Toka turned around and looked at Wu Yan. She pointed at the door and said, You go out first, come back in later. Wu Yan paused for a moment. Why? Toka stomped her feet and stuck her tongue out at Wu Yan. Just get out of here. Idiot. Idiot. Wu Yan raised an eyebrow as he looked at Toka, who looked like she was possessed by a stria. He helplessly sighed and he pulled Yono's hand. Then I'll go out with Yoshino to change clothes. Oh yeah? Shino's tone was a little sharp as she cried out. So Shido likes Yoshino more. Toka glared at Yoshino and humphed. She stopped talking. Chapter 454. In the changing room outside the hot spring, Wu Yan helped Yono take off her clothes while she blushed. Her tender body that he saw last night was revealed to him. Even though he saw her once last night, Wu Yan couldn't help but turn his head away. It's not that he's pretending to be serious, but if he doesn't do this, he's afraid that he'll lose his composure. Shideasan, you're shy? Siono smiled and teased. Wu Yan rolled his eyes and ignored her. Wu Yan picked up a small bath towel and wrapped it around Siono's body. Then he took off his clothes and wrapped himself in a towel. His firm chest heaved up and down in the air. Occasionally, there would be the sound of his heartbeat, and occasionally, there would be a glimmer of light flashing through his eyes. He looked very well built. Touching his chest, Wu Yan couldn't help but laugh. If it was in the past with his small otaku body, how could he have such a golden ratio? All of this is thanks to the blessing of the true ancestor bloodline. Siono, don't forget to tie up your hair. Wu Yan said to Siono. Yes. After a short day of interaction, Siono's words are a lot more eloquent. She's no longer like before where she would pause every 1 or 2 words. At least it's not that often, but her voice is still as low as before. And it's this change that made Siono surprised when she woke up. For Siono, who is very familiar with Siono, this change is already a great progress. While Siono's hair is tied up, Wu Yan chose 3 towels and folded them into a square shape. For some reason, when they're soaking in the hot spring, they always have to put a square towel on their head. Wu Yan thought it's a bit troublesome, but since everyone did it, he followed suit. After doing all this, Wu Yan brought Siono to the hot spring and opened the door. When the hot spring came into view, 2 figures entered the hot spring as well. Saido. Toka leaned on the side and waved at Wu Yan. Come down quickly. This is amazing, it's much more comfortable than bathing at home. Wu Yan didn't answer Toka because he's completely focused on the scene in front of him. In the hot spring, Kotori grabbed her towel and sat opposite Toka. Her delicate body was deeply hidden under the hot spring, making it impossible to see what's going on inside. But her face, which is red from embarrassment or from the heat, is exceptionally charming. Toka sat opposite Kotori, but compared to Kotori, Toka didn't wear a towel. She leaned on the edge of the hot spring and closed her eyes comfortably. Half of her naked body was covered by the hot spring water, but the 2 semicircles were exposed. Seeing the 2 in the hot spring, Wu Yan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. When he came back to his senses, he scolded himself for not living up to expectations. He had 8 wives at home, how could he not see enough of them? He couldn't even withstand the test. While despising himself, Wu Yan's body shrunk back unnaturally. Because seeing the 2 women like this, Wu Yan couldn't hold back his lust and raised the flag. He didn't want to let anyone see the tent under his towel. It looks really comfortable. Shitona shouted while dancing with joy. Shitona also wants to try it. When she heard Shino blinked her eyes and then she walked towards the hot spring. When her little feet soaked in the hot spring, her large eyes couldn't help but narrow slightly while a flush appeared on her face. It seemed that the effects of the hot spring were rather outstanding for Shino. Yoshino quickened her pace and slowly submerged herself in the water. She swam to Toka's side and sat down. Seeing Yoshino enter the water, Wu Yan's restless heart was released. He couldn't wait to get into the water. Looking at him, he almost shouted, "I'm coming." Wu Yan glanced at Toka and Yoshino, then at Kotori. A wicked light flashed in his eyes. Then without hesitation Wu Yan came to Kotori's side and sat down. Kotori shrunk back and looked at Wu Yan sitting beside her. Her face blushed even more. She tightened her grip on the towel and her gaze became unnatural. But she didn't leave. After Wu Yan entered the water, the hot spring became quiet. Toka, Yoshino, and Yoshino's eyes were closed as if they were asleep. Kotori envied them. She also wanted to close her eyes and enjoy the hot spring. However, Wu Yan made her nervous. She couldn't calm down and enjoy the hot spring. After a while, Wu Yan suddenly said in a voice only Kotori can hear. "Kotori, you didn't bring a black ribbon to the hot spring, right?" Kotori was stunned. She tilted her head in confusion. She didn't understand why Wu Yan suddenly asked this, but she answered honestly. "No, I brought a ribbon, it would get wet." Wu Yan's wine-red eyes flashed with a brilliant light as he grinned. Kotori's body stiffened. She made a strange sound like a hiccup. Her red eyes flashed with disbelief. She slowly turned to look at Wu Yan. She wanted to prove that Wu Yan didn't do it. Unfortunately, all she saw was a face with a hateful smile. "Onie!" Kotori's face turned red. She wanted to scream when she saw Wu Yan's face, but Wu Yan's words stopped her. "Toka and the others are still on the other side." Kotori swallowed the scream she was about to blurt out. She pouted and wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Wu Yan's hand on Kotori's breast started to slowly move. A scorching sensation traveled from Wu Yan's skin into Kotori's body. Her heart trembled violently. The hand that seemed to have a very high temperature seemed to have some sort of magical power. Kotori almost moaned. Kotori bit her lips and looked at Toka and Yoshino, who had their eyes closed. She was so embarrassed that tears welled up in her eyes. Kotori was extremely afraid. She was afraid that Toka and Yoshino would open their eyes and see what happened. If that happened, she wouldn't be able to face them anymore. Kotori quickly stopped Wu Yan's mischievous hand and looked at Wu Yan pleadingly. "Onion, don't be like this." Wu Yan raised an eyebrow. He glanced at Toka and Yoshino before turning back to Kotori. He ignored Kotori's attempts to stop him and he started caressing Kotori again. He used his actions to answer Kotori's question. Kotori's body trembled again and again. She reached out and pressed Wu Yan's hand. Unfortunately, Wu Yan's hand seemed to have infinite strength. He didn't care about Kotori's attempts at stopping him. He continued moving without any hindrance. Oni-chan, don't. Will be discovered," Kotori said to Wu Yan with a trembling voice. She didn't dare to speak too loudly for fear of waking up the two women. Will Wu Yan agree? The answer is no. Chapter 455. Kotori is filled with regret. Why did she agree to come to the hot spring last night? If she didn't agree, she wouldn't be treated like this. Kotori is using all her strength to press down on the hand under the hot spring. She's trying to stop the hand from invading her body. However, it was as if all her strength was non-existent. She was completely ignored by the other party. Under the suppression of all her strength, the big hand was not affected at all. It moved freely as if it was nothing. It touched Kotori's body from front to back, from top to bottom. Kotori's heart seems to stop for a moment every second. She's gasping for air as if she can't breathe in fresh air. The quiet hot spring is filled with soft panting sounds. Every time she gasped for breath, her strength would decrease by a notch. The strength in her hands would decrease as well. Towards the end, Kotori's hands that were pressed against Wu Yan's palms can only be described as a pear. Kotori's pretty face is as red as a peach. Her forehead is secreting fine beads of sweat. As she gasps for breath, the beads of sweat slowly slide down her face and the tip of her nose. dripping into the hot spring. The air above the hot spring is filled with a faint body fragrance. Feeling her strength leaving her body, a strange desire is gradually attacking her. Kotori lowered her head and gasped for breath. From time to time she'll let out a soft murmur. Her red eyes are starting to water. Wu Yan shook his head and laughed. He started looking forward to Kotori's reaction. If Kotori's already in such a sorry state when he touched her breasts, what would happen if he touched other parts of her body? Thinking of this, Wu Yan can't help but lick his lips. His hand's movement suddenly turned into a hand. Kotori's smooth body is now completely in his palm. Kotori clenched her teeth, trying her best to endure the strange feeling in her body. This feeling made Kotori panic because this is the first time she's felt this kind of desire. Kotori panted and looked at her big brother. She wanted to beg for mercy, but every time she tried to speak, her voice would turn into a heart-wrenching moan. Kotori didn't dare to open her mouth anymore. She could only use her eyes to express her pleas. But Kotori didn't know that her eyes were the most attractive part of her body. Her eyes were filled with confusion and pleading. Anyone who wasn't on guard against her face couldn't help but feel short of breath. Wu Yan quickened his pace and increased the intensity of his thrusts. Kotori's heart is filled with hatred. How can her brother treat her like this? It's fine if you take away her first kiss and she won't blame you for touching her. But I'm begging you, how can you ignore me and watch me embarrass myself like this? I should have changed to a black ribbon. Kotori doesn't know that Wu Yan is only bullying her in her sister mode. After all, a soft girl is easy to bully. As for the commander mode, Wu Yan doesn't have the guts to tease her yet because he doesn't want to die. Thus Wu Yan can only take it slow starting from sister mode. When the time comes he will push Kotori down and she will have no choice but to accept the fact that she is in commander mode. This is why every time Wu Yan has bad intentions he'll either take away her black ribbon or ask her if she has one. One has to admit that this method is very effective. At the very least, the sister mode Kotori can't refuse Wu Yan. She can only let Wu Yan do whatever he wants. As time passed, Wu Yan gradually grew dissatisfied. Narrowing his eyes, Wu Yan calmed himself down and started moving his hand upwards. Kotori's eyes widened and her face was filled with panic. She sensed that the scorching hand was moving to a place that she absolutely couldn't accept. Her heart was pounding so hard that it could be faintly heard in the air above the hot spring. It was not hard to imagine how tense Kotori's emotions were. No, please don't. Kotori can't speak anymore. She can only scream madly in her heart as the hand gets closer. She hopes that a certain kind werewolf can hear her. Unfortunately, Wu Yan doesn't know how to read minds. Finally, Wu Yan's hand covered the most private part of the Kotori. With a gentle flick of his finger, Kotori's tightly shut lips let out a moan. The sound is so pleasant that it made Wu Yan's blood boil. That one flick turned into a lot of flick. Ugh. A deadly electric current ran back and forth in Kotori's body, engulfing every cell in her body. Then the deadly electric current turned into a deadly orgasm. Kotori raised her head with her mouth wide open. Her eyes flickered with the most erotic light. Looking at Kotori's expression, Wu Yan held his breath. He couldn't help but reach out with his other hand. Ignoring Kotori's flustered expression, he removed the towel from her body. When the white towel was removed from her body, Kotori's body was revealed. The pair of white bunnies he saw in a hurry in Wu Yan's bathroom entered Wu Yan's eyes. Oni-chan. Kotori couldn't help but cry out. Her body was completely exposed in front of Wu Yan. She was extremely embarrassed. However, Wu Yan's hand didn't stop moving. Kotori felt like she was in an abyss of fire. She couldn't save herself. She could only watch as her body writhed in front of Wu Yan's eyes. Finally, Kotori is within Wu Yan's grasp. Wu Yan couldn't wait any longer and he started rubbing Kotori's body. While rubbing Kotori's body, he bit down on one of her ears. Kotori let out a seductive moan. Her face was as red as water. She placed her hands on Wu Yan's upper and lower arms but she couldn't exert any strength. From the outside, it looked like Kotori was the one driving Wu Yan's hand. Kotori kept moaning. The luxury called rationality was slowly collapsing. Kotori's voice uncontrollably became louder and louder, echoing throughout the space. To avoid attracting the attention of the two girls, Wu Yan lowered his head and he sucked on Coteries' lips. He also pried open her teeth and he searched for Coteries' flustered tongue. Then he started making love with her. The ambiguous atmosphere began to spread throughout the entire hot spring. Even the hot spring seemed to be shy. It began to accelerate the evaporation of heat, enveloping the two's entwined bodies, covering their embarrassment. On the other side, Toka, Yoshino and Yoshino seemed to be really asleep. They didn't notice at all that there was a ripple that was enough to destroy the pure thoughts of the elves in front of them. When Wu Yan and Coteries' lips parted, their red eyes met. They started panting when they saw the look in each other's eyes. Wu Yan kissed Coteries' lips again. He let go of Coteries' thigh and held Coteries' breasts. He lifted her up and placed it between his legs. "No. Oni-san." Coterie moaned. "Don't." "Here." Coterie's words made Wu Yan realize where they are. His mind cleared up. He bitterly smiled. There's nothing he can do. He stopped pressing down on Coterie's breasts and started to move his hands back and forth. Coterie's light panting sounds kept coming from the hot spring. Chapter 456. Hot Spring Hotel. At a certain moment the door of the hot spring was finally opened. 10 Fragrance and Si Wen Nai walked out of the hot spring with a towel wrapped around their bodies. There was still some mist around their bodies and there was a strong sense of satisfaction on their faces. So comfortable. Toka sniffed and smiled happily. Hot spring is really good stuff. Yoshino by the side also repeatedly nodded her small head. One could see a trace of joy in her large blue eyes. For Yoshino, who was temporarily unable to properly express her emotions, this kind of expression was already an extremely happy expression. "Oh, where's Shido?" Yoshino waved her rabbit hands, reminding the two elves who were immersed in the hot spring world not to forget a certain someone. Toka was shocked. "Yeah, where's Shido?" Siyu tilted her head in confusion. She blinked her big eyes full of question marks. It was obvious that 10 Fragrance had asked the wrong person. Thus, the two sprites, one big and one small, immediately began to stare at each other. "He should still be in the hot spring," Yoshino said. She covered her mouth and secretly smiled. So little Toka doesn't care about Shido anymore. Yoshino must tell Shido this fact. Shido will be very sad and then ignore little Toka. 10 Fragrances immediately turned pale with fright. He shook his head frantically and shouted, "Of course not. Shido won't ignore me." Yeah, Shido won't ignore little Toka." Yoshino's words pierced Toka's heart. "But this time it was you little 10 Fragrances who left Shido behind. Yoshino thinks Shido will be very sad." Toka's eyes were full of tears. She said to Yoshino, "But didn't Yoshino also leave Shido behind? Shido will also ignore Yoshino." Yoshino was stunned, then her little face started to become nervous. Her eyes were filled with tears. Yoshino's heart jumped. She didn't want to scare Yoshino. She changed her tone. "We're all in the same hot spring. Why didn't you notice Shido?" Toka opened her mouth. She tilted her head and said seriously, "I forgot." Yoshino lowered her head and said weakly, "Me too. These two elves are so natural that they broke through the sky. More importantly, it's not too late to remember Wu Yan, but you forgot about Kotori." Both Toka and Yoshino seemed to be scared by Yoshino's words. Toka quickly said, "I'll go find Shido." The 4 Kano nodded. The two spirits turned around and when they were about to enter the hot spring, Wu Yan appeared before them. He slowly walked out of the hot spring with a smug look on his face. He looked like he just ate something good. Anyone who saw him would know that he's in a good mood. His body and mind are at their best. Under Toka and Yoshino's surprised gaze, Wu Yan said to Yoshino in a bad mood, "I say, Yoshino, is it fun to bully Toka and Yoshino?" Yoshino giggled. Yoshino didn't want to bully Yoshino. Yoshino only wanted to bully Toka. Toka suddenly realized it's like she just realized she was being bullied, but the truth is she just realized she was being bullied. She angrily looked at Yoshino and said, "So you've been bullying me?" "Who told Toka to be so fun?" Yoshino said while waving her hand. Her tone is asking for a beating. "That, it's not good to quarrel." Si Ning withdrew the shitonai in her hand a little and softly said. That gentle voice caused 10 Incense's anger to involuntarily subside. Wu Yan laughed and shook his head. "These two elves are being bullied by a doll. If they really cared about me they would have come to me from the start." Bang. Suddenly, a foot kicked Wu Yan from behind. It landed on Wu Yan's waist. Wu Yan didn't expect someone to attack him. He was completely unprepared. The sudden kick landed on his waist, causing him to spit out a mouthful of saliva. He flew through the air in a parabolic arc before crashing into the ground. His toes twitched a couple of times before he went limp and couldn't get up anymore. Shido, Oniai-chan. Zhou Xian and Si Wen-nai couldn't help but exclaim. They turned to look at the owner of the foot and couldn't help but be stunned. Kotori, why did you suddenly kick Shido? Toka looked at Kotori. Yoshino was also anxious. Kotori's state is too strange. His red eyes were actually suffused with a black light. His face was so gloomy that it seemed as though water was about to drip from it. His body was constantly trembling as though he was enduring something. However, there was a misty mist in his black eyes. His gloomy face was suffused with a red flush. If this state was not strange, what was it? On the ground, Wu Yan struggled to get up. He looked at Kotori's head. Wu Yan despaired. The white ribbons on Kotori's head have turned black. Commander mode. Kotori narrowed her red eyes. A fierce glint flashed in her eyes. Under the bath towel, her long white legs strode towards Wu Yan. Each step is followed by a heavy thud. It's like she's stepping on everyone's heartstrings. Toka and Yoshino hugged each other. They're trembling. Wu Yan laughed dryly. He shook his hands. He pretended to be relaxed. If it wasn't for his body moving back, they'd think he's going to argue with Kotori. Kotori stood in front of Wu Yan. She looked down at Wu Yan. Ignoring the fact that Wu Yan is seriously injured, she said coldly, "Speak, how do you want to die?" Wu Yan smiled sheepishly. "Must I be sentenced to death?" "Looks like you don't want to choose how you want to die." Kotori said, "Then let me decide for you." Kotori. Wu Yan looked at Kotori, who's glowing black. He shouted with grief and indignation, "Please listen to my last words." Kotori glanced at Wu Yan expressionlessly. "What do you want to say? This commander allows you to speak. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do?" Looking at Kotori, who could turn into a dark one at any moment, Wu Yan racked his brain to think of a way to get out of this situation. However, the cruel selection process slowly extinguished his hope. In the end, Wu Yan looked like he wanted to cry, but no tears came out. "Looks like you're testing my patience." Kotori clenched her teeth and raised her foot. "Since that's the case, let me end you." Wu Yan looked at the foot that's about to land on him. He jumped up and grabbed Kotori's hands. Kotori was shocked. She shouted, "Let go. Let go? How can I let go? I'll die if I let go." He grabbed Kotori's hands and hugged her tightly. Kotori's body stiffened. Kotori pushed Wu Yan away as she glared at Wu Yan. She gasped for air as if she had used up all of her strength to push him away. She looked at Wu Yan with a dark expression on her face. After a while, Kotori snorted coldly. "You're lucky." Kotori grabbed her clothes and walked out of the changing room without looking back. The other three sighed in relief and looked at each other. Kotori's legs turned to jelly and she fell against the wall. Her face was flushed. The murderous glint in her eyes turned into a daze and her skin was flushed red. Kotori's face reddened again when she recalled what she did with Wu Yan in the hot spring. Idiot. Chapter 457. The sky had darkened and the night had surrounded the entire sky in darkness. The stars were slightly glowing, embellishing the black sky, making the color not so monotonous. Unfortunately, perhaps because it was a little superfluous, the moon did not appear in this beautiful scene. In the distance, a luxurious car drove over at an average speed and soon stopped at the door of Wu He's house. All the doors were opened in a moment, and a man and 3 women also got out of the car, closed the door and came to the gate. These 4 people were naturally Wu Yan's group who came back from the hot spring hotel. "Then I'll go back first," Murasame Ling-in said to everyone with a pair of eyes wrapped in dark circles. It had to be said that this time Murasame Ling-in sacrificed a lot. Not only did she act as a driver, but she also didn't go to the hot spring. This was only secondary. More importantly, when Wu Yan's group was comfortably enjoying the hot spring, Murasame Ling-in was entertaining herself in the hot spring hotel alone for several hours, which was admirable. It wasn't until Murasame Rain drove away that everyone retracted their gazes. However, Yoshino raised his head and looked at the sky. There was a strange color in his big blue eyes. The big eyes reflected the scene of the night. The little starlight at this time seemed to enter Yoshino's big eyes, flashing frequently, which looked very beautiful. Catching a glimpse of this scene, Wu Yan, who was about to enter Wu He's house, stopped, looked at Yoshino sideways and asked in confusion, "What's wrong?" Hearing Wu Yan's voice, Yoshino seemed to be awakened. She took back her eyes that looked up at the sky and said with a little embarrassment, "That is very beautiful, beautiful?" Wu Yan raised his head and looked at the distant sky. Indeed, the night sky at this time was very beautiful, but such a scenery was relatively common. Compared with those real beauties such as the beautiful scenery between the sky and the sea that he saw last time at the seaside of the Whirlwind Butler world, there was still some gap. Of course, Wu Yan did not say anything because of this. He could more or less guess why the four bunnies were behaving like this. Squatting down, Wu Yan touched the beautiful hat on Si Yunai's head and said, "Haven't you seen it?" Being touched by Wu Yan on the head, Yoshino seemed to enjoy it very much. Her eyes narrowed slightly, and a happy blush appeared on her face as she whispered, "Yeah, I've never seen it before." Upon hearing this, not only Wu Yan, but even Toka and Kotori, who was still in commander mode, turned to look at the four genii at the same time with a pitiful expression on their faces. Yoshino is the spirit of ice and water. Every time it descends to this world, it will bring along a sky full of rain because of its special ice and water spirit power. Because of this, if Yoshino were to raise its head to look at the sky in the past, it would only see the same rain and clouds. Up until now, everyone still remembered that after Yoshino's power was sealed last night, when she woke up the next day, her face that always carried a bashful expression, when she saw the blue sky, just what kind of brilliant expression appeared on her face. From a certain point of view, Yoshino was really pitiful. Looking at Yoshino's blushing face, Wu Yan smiled and scratched Yoshino's nose. He said dotingly, "In the future there will be a lot of time to see it." Yoshino raised his head and smiled. He nodded his little head. The crowd was able to sense that Yoshino's mood seemed to have become very happy. Thus, smiles involuntarily appeared on the crowd's faces. After rubbing Yoshino's head again, Wu Yan stood up and glanced at the door. He hesitated for a bit but didn't choose to enter. Instead he turned to Kotori. "I say, Kotori, aren't you going to switch back to sister mode?" Wu Yan asked out of curiosity. To prevent Shiori from getting involved in unnecessary trouble, Kotori has always been reluctant to act like a commander in front of Shiori. This is why Wu Yan was able to bully Kotori back in the Itsuka family. Kotori snorted. She glanced at Wu Yan and she mumbled, "It's all because of you. What did you say?" Kotori's voice was so soft that even Wu Yan couldn't hear it. This made Wu Yan even more confused and curious. Kotori glared at Wu Yan and shouted, "I said it's none of your business." Kotori's shout caught Wu Yan's attention. Wu Yan felt like his head was struck by lightning. He felt dizzy and his eyes were spinning. Pursing her lips, Kotori swung her two red ponytails as she walked towards the door. She's cursing inside her heart. In her sister mode, she's so naive and cheerful. How could she have the nerve to come out and see Wu Yan after that dubious affair in the hot spring with him? "That's strange, Kotori." Toka held Wu Yan's ears and pouted. "She's like a different person." "No, she's like a different person. In a sense, she's a different person." Kotori followed Wu Yan, Toka, and Yono into Itsuka's house. They pushed open the door and the three girls greeted them with a sweet, "I'm back." Shiori came down from upstairs as well. "You're all back?" Shiori looked at everyone with a warm smile. "Did you have fun in the hot spring?" Zhou Xian and Siwon nodded vigorously. It could be seen that they were indeed very happy. After all, something as enjoyable as a hot spring was something the two of them could never enjoy in the past. In the past, the two of them only had to constantly be chased and run away. Of course, Shiori didn't know all of this, but as long as everyone was happy it was fine. Shiori quickly noticed Kotori's difference and asked with some doubt, "Kotori, why are you wearing a black ribbon?" "Here it comes," Kotori sighed. Then she showed a bright and innocent smile just like when she wore the white ribbon. She came to Shiori's side and hugged her arm. "Sister, my ribbon got wet in the hot spring." "I see." Shiori nodded in agreement. Wu Yan, who knows the situation, felt a chill down his spine. He looked at Kotori's innocent smile and the black ribbon on her head. After confirming that this is indeed commander mode, Wu Yan's lips twitched and he turned his head away in an awkward manner. The one acting like a spoiled brat is the same face as before. However, when he thought of Coteries Commander Mode, he couldn't stay calm. It's hard to believe that Commander Mode Coterie would act like a spoiled brat. It's a good thing Coterie didn't know what Wu Yan was thinking. Otherwise he would have been sentenced to jail for sure. At night, lying on his bed, Wu Yan exhaled and looked at the ceiling. His eyes looked a bit unfocused as he thought of something. Apart from the beach trip in Butler Whirlwind's world, it's been a long time since he had such a relaxing time. Come to think of it, since he got the system and came to Spalier World half a year ago, he rarely had such an ordinary life. Fortunately, even though it's few, it's not like there's none. In the world of Butler Whirlwind, I lived the life of a student of White King Academy. In the world of magic, I also went on dates with the girls and went shopping. When I was in the world of Silveria, I also lived quite a peaceful life. Compared to those seniors who have to work hard every day after transmigrating, he's much happier with the system. I wonder how Chuju and the others are doing. Is Flandre-chan obedient? I miss them so much. Chapter 458. The next morning, Wu Yan's house had a peaceful morning as usual. Aside from the girls being dissatisfied with Wu Yan's habit of sleeping in instead of cooking, nothing else happened. Of course, that's only for the girls. Due to some unknown reason, Coterie has been in commander mode since yesterday, even when she's sleeping. Normally this would be inconceivable. Since Coterie is in commander mode, Wu Yan, who used to be the one to wake up in the morning, got to wake up by force this morning. After all, commander mode Coterie isn't as nice as sister mode Coterie. She'll call out Oni-chan a few times and get bullied by Wu Yan. For Coterie, waking up Wu Yan is a piece of cake. She only needs to pull his blanket and kick his feet to wake him up. When he wakes up, he's no longer on the warm sheets but on the cold floor. If Shiori wasn't still at home, Coterie would have ordered Wu Yan to make breakfast. After all, Coterie has always coveted Wu Yan's food. Then, after sending the 4 Kanai to Fraxinus, Murasame Rain took care of them. Everyone left home and went to school separately. Tiangong City, Duralai Zen High School. Meng Meng's homeroom teacher stood on the podium and looked around at the students below. She nodded her head in satisfaction, then she opened her arms cutely and said with a smile, "Good morning, everyone. Today there will be a transfer student coming." Hearing this, the students looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Some time ago there was already a Itsuka Shido and a Night Blade God Toka in the class. Now, in just a few days there was another transfer student. Since when were there so many transfer students? Shirori, Toka, and Tabichi Origami didn't know what's going on. Only Wu Yan, who was sleeping at the last row, opened his eyes when he heard this. He lifted his head and looked at them. A transfer student? At this time? His consciousness slowly returned to his mind. Narrowing his wine-red eyes, he turned towards the classroom door. He bitterly laughed and sighed. The transfer student after Toka in the original work, other than her, who else could it be? Come in." As the homeroom teacher's voice rang out, the voices of everyone in the class weakened. Under everyone's gazes, the classroom door was slowly opened. The sound of footsteps echoed throughout the silent classroom. The person slowly walked up to the podium and revealed his true face to everyone. For a moment, the students who were originally waiting for a good show widened their eyes and were speechless when they saw the person's true face. Her long black hair was tied into 2 long braids and stretched out in front of her chest. She had long bangs on her forehead, but the length was completely different. The hanging bangs covered her entire left eye, leaving her right eye a wine-red color. It was smooth like a pearl under the black Duralayakan high school uniform. A pair of black silk stockings were on her feet, making her look very charming. After writing his name on the blackboard, he turned around and smiled at everyone. "My name is Toka Kurumi." That's right. The newcomer is the time fairy. Toka Kurumi. The Toka Kurumi who almost swallowed Wu Yan a few days ago. Seeing the beautiful Toka Kurumi on the podium, everyone in the classroom came back to their senses when they heard Toka Kurumi's voice. Everyone instantly fell to their knees before Toka Kurumi's beauty and screamed in surprise. Tokasaki Kurumi didn't seem to care about the students' reactions. She scanned the classroom with her wine-red right eye until she saw Wu Yan sitting at the back of the class with an expressionless face. Tokasaki Kurumi's eyes lit up and she flashed a sweet smile. Another wave of wolf-like howls erupted from the class. Hearing the cheers in the classroom, Wu Yan couldn't help but bitterly smile. He looked at the dignified and elegant Toka Kurumi. Who would have thought that such an existence would be a fairy who personally killed more than 10,000 people? If he didn't remember the battle with Toka Kurumi a few days ago, Wu Yan wouldn't have believed that Toka Kurumi was such a crazy fairy. Toka Kurumi's lips curled up as she retracted her gaze from Wu Yan. She smiled and said, "By the way, I am a fairy." The loud cheers came to an abrupt end. Everyone was a little stunned as they looked at Shikisaki Kurumi, who was standing on the podium as if he was talking about something insignificant. They looked at each other and froze on the spot. Wu Yan, who was sitting in the back row, bitterly smiled. As for Toka and Origami, their mouths were wide open. A drop of cold sweat dripped down the teacher's forehead as he looked at the silent classroom and dryly laughed. That's a really rich self-introduction. The form teacher wiped her forehead. She was a little dumbfounded. Why were the 3 transfer students in her class so good? In order to prevent Tokasaki Kurumi from saying anything else, the homeroom teacher quickly said, "Then please take an empty seat. Before that, can you wait?" Tokasaki Kurumi interrupted the homeroom teacher. The homeroom teacher froze on the spot and forced a smile. "What's the matter?" he asked. "I'm unfamiliar with a lot of things in this school. So, I hope someone can show me around the school." Shit. Wu Yan had this thought when he heard Tokasaki Kurumi. He couldn't keep his cool anymore. He wanted to cry but no tears came out. Tokasaki Kurumi said the same thing as the original work. "She's not going to pick me, is she? Does she think I will agree?" As if she didn't hear Wu Yan's inner thoughts, she didn't hear the other boys' enthusiastic invitations. Toshiaki Kurumi chuckled and she walked towards Wu Yan, who couldn't bear to watch this any longer. She walked towards Wu Yan, who was covering his face with his hands. "Can I ask you for a favor?" "Shido-san." Toka Kurumi smiled elegantly and ignored Wu Yan, who was covering his face. Her voice echoed in the classroom and made everyone's jaws drop, including Toka and Shiori. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Not long after, the crowd boiled over. The girls whispered to each other and pointed at Wu Yan while the boys had a dark cloud hanging over their heads. They looked very gloomy and their gazes at Wu Yan looked like they were about to spit fire out of them. Who would have thought that a normal and unremarkable student like Shido would be able to attract the attention of a goddess? That guy. Toka, who was originally a bit lazy, suddenly became alert. She looked at Tokasaki Kurumi with hostility and gritted her teeth. "Why is it Shido? Could it be? Is it someone you know?" Shiori nodded doubtfully. She then turned to look at Toka, who was still fuming, and laughed inwardly. "Looks like the vinegar jar is about to explode." All kinds of piercing gazes made him want to vomit blood. He almost cursed out loud. "Do you guys really want to be with such a dangerous person?" Tokasaki Kurumi giggled. She lowered her body and she whispered to Wu Yan in a voice that only Wu Yan could hear. "Like I said, you can't reject me." A demonic red glow flashed in Tokasaki Kurumi's red eyes as he scanned everyone in the classroom. His meaning was obvious. Wu Yan stared at Toka Kurumi's smiling face for a long time before he sighed. "Fine." Chapter 459. In the sky above Tiangong City in Fraxinus, Ratatosker's members are in a mess in the command room. They're looking at Tokasaki Kurumi, who's sitting in Tortsuki Zen High School's second-year class 4. Their eyes are filled with disbelief and confusion. Even Kanazuki Kyuhei, Rain Murasame, and Yuki Chinyu are the same. At some point, the door to the command room opened by itself. Kotori, who was in commander mode, finally walked in. Her presence was like a tranquilizer. Everyone's faces lit up with joy as they calmed down a little. One had to admit that Kotori was indeed very authoritative in Ratatosker. "Commander." Kanazuki Kyuhei, Rain Murasame, and Yuki Chinyu heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Kotori. She's like Ratatosker's pillar of support. They're all relieved when she's here. "What's the situation?" Kotori walked to the commander's seat and sat down. She said with a heavy expression. Her red eyes stared at Shikisaki Kurumi on the screen. No one knows what she's thinking about. Nothing important has happened so far. Tokasaki Kurumi doesn't seem to want to show off in Tortsuki Zen High School. Kanazuki Kuhei reported. He's confused as well. He doesn't understand why Tokasaki Kurumi would come to his door. Kotori opened a pearl and put it in her mouth. That Tokasaki Kurumi, if I'm not mistaken, she's here for Shido, right? That should be the case. Yuki-Chinyu said calmly. He's the one in charge of assisting his captain. No one knows Wu Yen better than him. Of course, other than Kotori. Tokasaki Kurumi just invited Captain to tour the campus and Captain agreed. Yatsuki Chinyu frowned and said doubtfully. That Tokasaki Kurumi should be a very dangerous existence. She's obviously coming for Captain. It's impossible for Captain to not know. But why did Captain agree to Tokasaki Kurumi's request to be with her? Isn't that dangerous? I'm afraid Shido had no choice but to agree. Kotori narrowed her eyes. Tokasaki Kurumi is a reckless person. If Shido rejected her, the students of Tortsuki Zen High School would be in danger. Hearing this, everyone suddenly understood. Yuechinyu looked at the big screen and clenched his fists. But won't Captain be in danger? Kotori looked at Tokasaki Kurumi on the screen. Then she shifted her gaze to Wu Yen, who is standing beside Tokasaki Kurumi. She asked him in a low voice. Shido, what are you planning to do? Kotori thought for a moment and turned to Yuki Chinyu. Have you contacted Shido? I did. Chinyu gritted his teeth. Captain told me to inform Commander that since Tokasaki Kurumi didn't make a move immediately, he shouldn't make a move now. Captain, you shouldn't act rashly. Observe the situation before deciding what to do. Kotori nodded. Shido's choice is correct. With that, Kotori stood up and shouted to everyone in the command room. Everyone! Prepare for battle. If anything happens to Shido, you are allowed to activate the battle mode. Yes. Everyone was shocked. Ratatasker's main goal was to save the elves, so this so-called battle mode had never been activated before. The only reason it existed was because of the AST. But now it was allowed to be activated for a single elf. In the past, this was something that was simply impossible. However, no one hesitated and agreed. After all, the present was different from the past. Tokasaki Kurumi was not a kind-hearted fairy who could harm other living beings at any time. Against such a fairy who was an important member of the organization, who could be in danger at any time, no one had any objections to starting a battle mode. Kotori's expression improved a little when she saw the order being carried out. However, she still frowned. She turned to Yuki Chinyu and said, Yuki, go to Tortsuki Zen High School. Be prepared to support Shido. Yes. Commander. Yuki Chinyu replied and ran out of the command room. Kotori glanced at everyone who's busy. She touched the sealing bracelet on her hand. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. After a while she sighed and looked at Wu Yen on the screen. She murmured softly. Shido, please be safe. Tokasaki Kurumi's participation is just a small disturbance in the daily life of the students who don't know anything. Even if something happens, it won't be a big deal. If it wasn't for Tokasaki Kurumi's outstanding appearance and elegant demeanor, she wouldn't even be able to cause a small disturbance. However, for those who know Tokasaki Kurumi's background, it's a big deal. No one can deny that Tokasaki Kurumi is crazy. Such a crazy elf was really capable of doing anything. When the bell rang, the people in the classroom looked at Wu Yen and Toshisaki Kurumi with envy and curiosity before leaving the classroom. For some reason, Toka followed Shiori out of the classroom after she said something to her. In the end, only Wu Yen and Toshisaki Kurumi were left in the classroom. Captain, I'm at Tortsuki Zen High School. Inside Wu Yan's pocket, Yatsuki Chinyu's voice came from the communicator. Wu Yen paused for a moment before calming down as if nothing happened. Yuki, go to Shiori's side. If Tokasaki Kurumi attacks, you must take her away from here. Make sure she's safe. What? Yuki Chinyu was shocked. But Captain, you don't have to worry about me. Wu Yen spoke to the communicator in his pocket in a very small voice. If I can't handle it, then you can't handle it either. The communication device went silent after Wu Yan's words. After a while, Yuki Chinyu's voice came again. I got it, Captain. Then the signal from the communication device was cut off. Exhaling, Wu Yen stood up and he rubbed his forehead as he approached Tokasaki Kurumi. He walked over as well. Sorry to trouble you, Shido, and please take care of me. Tokasaki Kurumi tilted her head as if she didn't know Wu Yen at all. She spoke in a flat tone. All right. Wu Yan sighed. Let's go. Hearing Wu Yan's answer, Tokisaki Kurumi smiled and tapped her cheek. She narrowed her eyes and followed Wu Yan out of the classroom. On the other side of the classroom, Tokisaki Kurumi looked at Wu Yan and Tokisaki Kurumi walking together. She muttered in dissatisfaction. What the hell is he doing? Why did he choose Shido out of all the girls? Toka doesn't know why, but looking at Tokisaki Kurumi, she felt an inexplicable sense of irritation. She couldn't understand why, but there was also a faint trace of unease. This kind of uneasiness was different from the usual uneasiness. He felt that this trace of uneasiness was a little dangerous. Let's follow them and take a look. Toka thought, but then she stopped and remembered what Shiori said to her. If you push a guy too hard you'll make him hate you, hated by Sherdao. 10 Fragrance pouted and paced back and forth. After a long time, she stomped her feet and pouted with dissatisfaction before walking in another direction. Chapter 460. Inside one of the corridors of Toritachi Zen High School, Wu Yan and Tokisaki Kurumi walked together. They looked at each other like strangers, they didn't even talk to each other. That's if you ignore Tokisaki Kurumi's constant glances at Wu Yan. As they leisurely walked along the corridor, neither of them spoke first. They tacitly walked in the same direction. If one were to observe carefully, one would discover that as the two of them walked, the number of people in the corridor became fewer and fewer. When they reached a deserted corridor, the two slowed down their pace. With his hands behind his head, Wu Yan yawned lazily. Finally, he started talking to her for the first time since they started walking together. So, what are you doing here? Tokisaki Kurumi. Tokisaki Kurumi chuckled. Her wine-red eyes flashed with a peculiar glint. She turned towards Wu Yan. Shido-san, why do you say that? Wu Yan stopped. Tokisaki Kurumi stopped as well. Wu Yan turned around to look at Tokisaki Kurumi. Wu Yan snickered. Don't tell me you're really here for school? Tokisaki Kurumi's beautiful eyes narrowed into crescents. She took a few steps forward and approached Wu Yan. She didn't stop until she touched Wu Yan's body. Her head was still moving towards Wu Yan. Wu Yan frowned as he looked at Tokisaki Kurumi, who was getting closer. He couldn't help but take a step back. However, Tokisaki Kurumi didn't give up and continued to press closer to Wu Yan. Wu Yan had no choice but to step back. After a while, Wu Yan felt a cold touch on his back and he couldn't retreat anymore. He could only let Tokisaki Kurumi get closer to him and fall into his arms. From the outside, it looked like a girl in love falling into the arms of her lover. Her soft body fell into Wu Yan's embrace. Tokisaki Kurumi's huge chest pressed against his chest. It gave Wu Yan a strange feeling. However, Tokisaki Kurumi didn't seem to be satisfied. She twisted in his arms and looked at Wu Yan's face. Her face flushed red as if she was aroused. That woman. In the command room, Kotori saw the scene on the big screen and crushed the jewel in her mouth. The crisp sound caused everyone in the command room to shiver. They could feel their commander's resentment from this action. It would be fine if it was another elf, but it's Tokisaki Kurumi. Kotori is very unhappy. Tokisaki Kurumi's personality is a bit of a headache for Wu Yan. However, it's an undeniable fact that Tokisaki Kurumi has a face that can drive anyone crazy. Coupled with her blushing face, Wu Yan couldn't help but feel a little restless. Wu Yan didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this. Wu Yan suppressed the restlessness in his heart and looked away helplessly. I say, what are you trying to do? What's wrong? Tokisaki Kurumi tilted her head and smiled. Don't you like it, Shido-san? Wu Yan shook his head. Don't tell me you like doing this kind of thing. Tokisaki Kurumi nodded without hesitation when she heard Wu Yan's words. Ah yes, if it's Shido-san, I'm very willing, I like it very much. Wu Yan gulped, he didn't know what to say and sighed. I don't think I have that much charm to make a beautiful girl like you fall in love with me, at least when you've only met me once. You're wrong, Shido-san. Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes glistened with tears. One could see the unconcealable blurriness in her eyes. Since the last time I saw Sherdao, I've been thinking about you. Every day Sherdao's figure is flying and stirring in my mind. It's driving me crazy. I can't hold back my longing for you any longer. Tokisaki Kurumi wrapped her arms around Wu Yan's neck. She leaned forward and she said in a seductive voice. That's why I came to find you. This is the only way we can be together. That's right, I am very happy right now. Tokisaki Kurumi's words are no different from a confession. Wu Yan's face was stunned. He couldn't stay calm anymore. Even though he has about 10 wives, words of love like this are impossible to hear from Chuju, Mikoto and the others. This is Wu Yan's first time in a situation like this. It's also his first time being confessed to. Wu Yan is at a loss of what to do. He's behaving like a pure and innocent little boy. No one would have guessed that this guy already has a wife, and 8 of them at that. Moreover, Tokisaki Kurumi's body kept moving closer to his as she spoke. Even a real gentleman wouldn't be able to hold himself back, let alone a fake gentleman like Wu Yan. Wu Yan could only hold back the evil fire in his heart. His face was red as he leaned against the wall like a little girl who was violated. He was about to cry. Of course, Wu Yan was having a good time, but a certain arrogant girl with 2 ponytails in the command room almost went berserk. Just like Wu Yan, she was also holding it in. Her face was red as well. Seeing Wu Yan's reaction, Tokisaki Kurumi found it very interesting. Her body moved closer to Wu Yan's chest as if she was trying to squeeze herself into Wu Yan's body. Hey Shido-san. Tokisaki Kurumi smiled. Can you agree to my request? And the smile on Tokisaki Kurumi's face turned a little sinister at this moment. Her wine-red eyes flashed with a hint of fanaticism as she raised her head and enunciated each and every word. What about merging into one body? Tokisaki Kurumi's words were like a bucket of cold water splashed on Wu Yan's head. His burning head instantly calmed down and his face slowly turned cold. I say, Tokisaki Kurumi. Wu Yan looked at Tokisaki Kurumi and said in a deep voice. Are you joking? I'm very serious, Shido-san. Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes were filled with fanaticism and infatuation. She said to Wu Yan. As long as Shido-san accepts me and becomes one with me, we can be together every day. Tokisaki Kurumi's words were like an invitation to give her body to the other party. If it was someone else, they would have been infatuated with her words. However, Wu Yan knew that the becoming one Tokisaki Kurumi mentioned was different from the becoming one between a man and a woman. Tokisaki Kurumi really meant what she said. She wants to merge with Wu Yan. In other words, she wants to devour him. Tokisaki Kurumi never forgot that Wu Yan had an immortal body. He had endless time and the ability to fulfill her wishes. Therefore, Tokisaki Kurumi really fell in love with Wu Yan. However, it was a crazy love. This love is too heavy. It's too heavy for anyone to accept, including Wu Yan. Do you think I will accept it? Wu Yan looked at Tokisaki Kurumi's dazed eyes and asked. The fanaticism on Tokisaki Kurumi's face instantly disappeared. Tokisaki Kurumi chuckled and let go of Wu Yan. She walked forward. Shido-san, let's continue walking around the campus. Wu Yan was confused when he saw Tokisaki Kurumi walking away. He could only follow her helplessly. Tokisaki Kurumi covered her mouth and chuckled. I told you, you can't reject me. Chapter 461. After that, Tokisaki Kurumi behaved like a normal transfer student. She followed Wu Yan around the school and chatted from time to time. She didn't mention anything about what happened before. It's as if she's a different person. If it wasn't for the golden eye clock hidden under her bangs, no one would suspect that she's an elf. Wu Yan didn't say anything about Tokisaki Kurumi's actions. He acted like a normal classmate as he introduced Tokisaki Kurumi to the rest of the school. Those who didn't know would have no idea what the relationship between the two is like. Of course, even though the two of them seemed to be getting along so well, it wasn't easy for everyone in Ratatoskr. Not only did they have to keep an eye on Tozaki Kurumi, but they also had to constantly analyze her mood swings. They also had to be on guard all the time and prepare a plan to deal with her at any time. Today's work was more tiring than any other day they've spent in the past. As for Kotori, she's lost count of how many pearls she chewed. She feels like she's being played by Tokisaki Kurumi. While she's on guard, Tokisaki Kurumi is leisurely strolling around the school. It's infuriating. This situation persisted for an entire day until the sun set and the sky was completely covered by dusk. Only then did the two of them end their long school trip. At the entrance of the school, Wu Yan looked at Tokisaki Kurumi standing in front of him with an elegant smile on her face. He's carrying a backpack. She's especially dazzling under the dusk. If he could, he really hoped that Tokisaki Kurumi would always be this calm. I've really troubled you today, Shido-san. Tokisaki Kurumi tilted her head and smiled. I'm having a great time. Wu Yan looked at Tokisaki Kurumi seriously. Tokisaki Kurumi returned a beautiful smile to prove that she's having a great time. Wu Yan could only sigh. That's good, Tokisaki-san. You can call me Kurumi. Tokisaki Kurumi took a few steps forward and stared at Wu Yan's face with her red eyes. Wu Yan felt pressured. I know, Kurumi. Kurumi seemed happy to hear Wu Yan call her that. She rolled her eyes and said. Then Shido-san, can you agree to another request of mine? Again. Wu Yan's mouth twitched. Don't tell me it's another request to become one. I don't have that kind of fortune. Era Shido, you're such a joker. Kurumi didn't care and looked at Wu Yan with a hopeful gaze. Actually, I don't know much about this city, so can I trouble you again, Sherdao? Can you take me out for a walk tomorrow? Wu Yan was surprised. This isn't an invitation to date, right? I just don't know if I have the honor to do so. Kwang-san said with a smile. There was no trace of shyness in her tone. It was as if she wasn't talking about a date but a guest. Wu Yan frowned and he hesitantly glanced at Kurumi. Kurumi's unwavering smile and the anticipation in her eyes. She doesn't look like she's faking it. Wu Yan hesitated. To be honest, going out on a date with Kurumi is making him nervous. He's worried that Kurumi might not be able to hold back her urge to attack him and swallow him whole. But if he rejected her, let's not talk about how Kurumi would react. Let's talk about his side. Not only did he need to complete the second instance dungeon mission, but Kurumi wasn't evil to the core. On the contrary, she was actually a very kind person. Rejecting her just because her personality was a bit scary, it was a bit unreasonable. Kurumi saw Wu Yan's hesitation, so she didn't urge him. She just stood there and waited for Wu Yan's answer. The whole place became quiet. Shido, accept her offer. Kotori's voice came from Wu Yan's wireless earpiece. Wu Yan, who was contemplating whether or not he should agree to Kurumi's request, was surprised. His face remained expressionless, but there was a hint of doubt in his eyes. No matter what, Tokisaki Kurumi is still our target. If we can spend more time with her, we might be able to obtain some useful information. Moreover, this elf is still a little dangerous. It's a good thing to have her under our noses. Kotori analyzed calmly while curling her lips. Besides, if something happens, we still have Toka and Yoshino. With their abilities and your power, why should we be afraid of Tokisaki Kurumi? At this point, Kotori's voice was filled with displeasure. Unlike the original Kotori, Itsuka Shido's seal was too half-baked. Whenever the elves' emotions were unstable or they had a strong desire, they would be able to retrieve their power and regain their strength. But in this world they can only wear the sealing bracelet. Once they wear it, there's no other way to remove the seal except for white sealing bracelet. This was also what made Kotori unhappy. If she could use her fairy force, she would have taught Tokisaki Kurumi a lesson for acting so recklessly. Kotori is confident in her power, she won't lose to Tokisaki Kurumi. And that's the truth. Kotori's words shattered the last bit of hesitation in Wu Yan's heart. He nodded and looked at Kurumi. I understand. Tomorrow, right? I'll be there on time. Hearing this, Kwang-san finally smiled and closed her eyes. She took 2 steps back and softly said, Yes, Master Kwang-san. I'm looking forward to it. I have a date with Shido. Then I'll take my leave. Kurumi turned around and ran away. She skipped and slowly disappeared from Wu Yan's sight. It's obvious that she's in a good mood. Wu Yan's face fell and he let out a tired sigh after Kurumi disappeared at the end of the street. Don't be fooled by the relaxed expression on his face. In fact, his mental state had been raised to the extreme for the entire day because no one knew better than him about Kwang-san's insanity. If something goes wrong, there'll be a chaotic battle in the school today that's enough to kill countless students. That's why Wu Yan raised his vigilance to the highest level after spending a day with Kurumi. He didn't want to be caught unaware if Kurumi swallowed him. After all, even though he doesn't want to admit it, with his current strength he's still not bad against Kwang-san Xiang when he's not using Angel. But compared to Kwang-san Xiang who's using Angel, he's still lacking. I'm still not strong enough. Increasing my strength is the most basic solution. Wu Yan shook his head and rubbed his forehead to relieve his fatigue. He took a deep breath and looked at the direction Kurumi disappeared. If things went according to the original plan, there should be a few idiots who went to flirt with Kurumi and got swallowed by her. Of course, even though he knew Kurumi was swallowing people, Wu Yan didn't plan to intervene. If they were innocent, he could go and plead for them. With Kurumi's attitude towards him, she wouldn't offend him for a few ordinary people. However, Wu Yan wouldn't be so kind as to save those scumbags who came to his door. Just because he has the name Itsuka Shido doesn't mean he is Itsuka Shido. He doesn't have a compassionate heart. He has killed a lot of people himself. He can save innocent people if he wants to. But if it's someone who deserves to die, he's not going to stick his nose in their business. Let's think about tomorrow's date. Chapter 462. The next day, Heavenly Palace City. Standing at the intersection of a certain street, he looked at the bustling crowd coming and going. He looked up at the sky and estimated the time. He couldn't help but sigh. In order to go out and have a normal date with Kurumi, Wu Yan put in a lot of effort, and only he knew how hard it was. Not only because of the process of the date, but more importantly, Toka. In the original work, the protagonist also had a date with Kurumi, but that date in Wu Yan's view was more appropriate to call it a day of suffering than a date. Because in the original work, it wasn't only Kurumi who went on a date with the protagonist, but also Toka and Yuichi Origami, for various reasons, also went on a date with the protagonist. In other words, in the original work, the protagonist went on a date with 3 girls on the same day. It sounded like a perverted idea, but after truly enjoying it once, I realized that it was nothing more than torture. Not only did I have to take care of all 3 aspects, I also had to prevent the 3 girls from meeting each other in case a fire broke out in my backyard. In the original novel, the date between the protagonist and the 3 girls fully demonstrated the truth of, this world is really small. Even though Heavenly Palace City was so big, the 3 girls had passed each other back and forth countless times. This made the protagonist try his best to smooth things over and exhaust himself. But in the end, he still met them. Although Yuichi Origami has nothing to do with him here, and it's impossible for her to invite him on a date, he didn't want to follow the tragic path of the protagonist in the original work. As for Toka, Wu Yan put in a lot of effort. Not only did he play with her for the whole night, but he also cooked for the whole night, almost making Wu Yan's true ancestor body collapse. Fortunately, in the end, Toka was satisfied and didn't bother him this morning, allowing him to get away smoothly. Otherwise, Wu Yan wasn't sure if Toka would suddenly want to follow him and let him experience the same thing as the protagonist in the original work. Of course, Kotori definitely contributed a lot to this. After all, he was with Kurumi today, and if something went wrong, they might get into a fight. If that happens, he would need Toka's help. Kotori spent a lot of time talking to Toka about Ratatoskr and the elves, letting Toka know what Wu Yan did for the elves. This made Toka very moved, perhaps because she thought of the scene where Wu Yan saved her. It made Toka sympathize with Kurumi, who was also an elf. So when Kotori asked for Toka's help in times of need, Toka readily agreed. This made Wu Yan almost burst into tears. Sure enough, having a sister who can do and be in all kinds of ways is a very happy thing. Moreover, with Toka's feelings for Wu Yan, even if she was jealous, she wouldn't just watch Wu Yan die. Not to mention, Toka understood the situation very well, so it was reasonable for her to agree. As for Yoshino, her original words were, Yoshino will do whatever Brother Shido says. And so Wu Yan stood here waiting for Kurumi's arrival. Without a doubt, compared to the protagonist in the original work, Wu Yan was much happier. Shido, you really don't need our support? There are many experts in this field in Ratatoskr, Kotori said to Wu Yan through the radio for the umpteenth time. She sounded very confident in those so-called experts, which made Wu Yan's heart ache a little. I really don't need it. Wu Yan firmly rejected Kotori's offer. He really didn't know where the shrewd Kotori got her confidence from, to have such high hopes for those so-called experts. Then be careful, Kotori said helplessly. But she's not worried about her brother's abilities. At least there are 2 elf girls who have been successfully conquered, right? Or perhaps there are 3. After an unknown amount of time, Kurumi's figure finally appeared at the end of the street. She slowly walked towards Wu Yan, causing Wu Yan to look up. The moment Kurumi appeared, Everyone on the street stopped in their tracks. Their eyes couldn't help but be attracted to her. Even some girls couldn't help but glance at her. It could be seen that at this moment, Kurumi had become the focal point of the scene. Her remaining wine-red right eye saw Wu Yan on the other side of the street. Her entire eye lit up and a dazzling smile appeared on her face. Everyone who was looking at Kurumi was stunned. She acted like she didn't notice anything and walked towards Wu Yan. "I'm really sorry for making you wait." Kurumi stood in front of Wu Yan and smiled at Wu Yan. She bowed and apologized. "I didn't wait that long." Wu Yan shrugged and said casually, "Plus, in a situation like this, isn't it normal for a guy to wait for a girl?" "Allah, Shurdao is really a gentle person." Kurumi's mouth curved into a smile. She seemed to be very satisfied with her answer. "So, Shido, where should we go?" Kurumi looked at Wu Yan with an expectant gaze. Wu Yan couldn't help but feel a bit embarrassed. He bitterly smiled inside. If only Kurumi was always like this. He didn't know how many times he lamented in his heart. He scratched his face and then he laughed awkwardly. If you don't mind, let's go to the zoo." "That idiot." Kotori cursed in the command room. She shouted into the radio, "Are you a kid? It's a date, why go to the zoo?" Wu Yan turned a deaf ear to Kotori's words. He looked at Kurumi and he waited for her reply without saying anything. Kyuhei Kanazuki and Rain Murasame shook their heads. They thought Wu Yan made a stupid decision. A date like a movie theater, an amusement park, or even a concert is the wisest choice. Isn't the zoo a place to bring a kid? However, what happened next made everyone's jaws drop. Their jaws almost hit the ground. Kurumi's eyes lit up. A faint look of excitement appeared on her face. She looked like Toka who saw a delicacy, Mikoto who saw a gutta, and Ikaros who saw a watermelon. There was a deep blurred look on her face. In the command room, the people who saw the scene through the big screen were stunned. They looked at each other in dismay. "Haha, did I make things difficult for you?" Wu Yan lowered his head and said in an embarrassed tone, "I'm sorry, I like animals, so if you don't like it we can go somewhere else. There's no need." Kurumi interrupted Wu Yan. She looked anxious as if she's afraid they can't go to the zoo. "The zoo is great, let's go to the zoo." Everyone in Ratatoskr opened their mouths in a no shape. They couldn't react. Looking at her anxious expression, they couldn't stay calm. Is this still the arrogant Tokisaki Kurumi? Chapter 463. On the big screen in Fraxinus' command room, everyone in Ratatoskr saw it clearly. After Wu Yan said, "I like animals," Kurumi's favorability bar increased by half. It almost reached 2/3. Everyone's eyes almost popped out of their sockets when they saw this. Their faces were filled with disbelief. They looked like they were deceived by the world. Even though they've only met Tokisaki Kurumi a few times, everyone in Ratatoskr knows a lot about her personality. Crazy. Acting recklessly. That's everyone's impression of Tokisaki Kurumi. And now, Tokisaki Kurumi's favorability bar increased by more than half just because she said, "I like animals." This is unbelievable. Even Kotori was stunned. She almost forgot to keep the pearl in her mouth. It almost fell to the ground. After a while, Kotori reacted first. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Wu Yan, who was walking towards the zoo with Kurumi. She said with an unknown emotion, "Shido, you really are an unbelievable person." Kanazuki Kyuhei put his hand on his forehead and said with a bit of anger, "No wonder he's Ratatoskr's trump card. It wasn't him who was stupid, it was us who were stupid. Brother Commander's realm is not something we mortals can compare to. This is the true god of strategy." The people in the command room looked at Wu Yan on the big screen with admiration. Their eyes sparkled with starlight. How should I put it, that look is pretty disgusting. On the other side, Wu Yan, who was walking towards the zoo with Kurumi, heard everyone's comments. He smiled but didn't say anything. He was very proud of himself. Who wouldn't know that Tokisaki Kurumi liked animals? Even if they didn't know, they could easily find it on Baidu. With such an obvious entry point, if they didn't make good use of it, they might as well just bang their head against the wall and die. One must know that in the original work, because a few people bullied a cat, Kurumi went berserk and sent those people to hell. From this, one could see how much Tokisaki Kurumi liked small animals. Wu Yan isn't going to let go of such a hobby. It would be best if he could max out Kurumi's favorability and make her put on the sealing bracelet. That way he would be able to complete his mission. The first part of the plan is still normal and smart, but the latter part is already at the level of fantasizing. Heavenly Palace City, Wu Yan and Kurumi appeared at the entrance of a zoo. After they entered the zoo, a panda wearing a panda costume appeared in front of them. Under Kurumi's confused gaze, the panda passed the ice cream to Wu Yan. Then he walked away like a worker at a zoo. Kurumi was quite confused about this. After all, she never heard of an ice cream in a zoo. Only Wu Yan took the ice cream in his hand and continued walking with Kurumi. Wu Yan gave a thumbs up to the panda without Kurumi noticing. The panda also saluted Wu Yan. Phew. The panda didn't relax until the two disappeared from sight. He took off his panda mask and revealed a very beautiful face. It's Yu. It's really not an easy job to eliminate all the bad treatment of animals in the zoo. Captain really knows how to torture people. Yu bitterly smiled. How could he know that if Kurumi saw the scene of animal abuse, the zoo would become a bloodbath? That's why Wu Yan ordered him to solve it in advance. Of course, Kwang-san didn't know about this. At this moment she was happily looking at the little lambs in the pen. Her face blushed a little. She looked just like an ordinary girl who loved animals. Only at this moment did Kwang-san express her true feelings. Here you go. Wu Yan handed the ice cream to Kurumi and smiled. He was more or less amused. Who would have thought that Kurumi would act like this in front of those animals? For me? Kurumi doubtfully took the ice cream and said, "What about you, Sherdao?" Well, there's only one ice cream. Of course it's for a lady. Wu Yan didn't care about it and smiled. This. Kurumi hesitantly raised the ice cream in her hand and said with a smile, "Sherdao, why don't you eat with me? Great." Wu Yan shouted in his heart, but his face was full of embarrassment. He said, "Is that okay?" Era. Kwang-san rubbed her face and blushed. "If it's Sherdao." Scratching his head, Wu Yan shrugged with a grin. He started eating the same ice cream as Kurumi. Kurumi smiled back at him. The scene of the two eating the same ice cream made them look like a loving couple. The people in the command room couldn't help but admire the pair. At this time, on the edge of the fence, a few shepherd dogs ran over from not far away. They circled around the fence and barked non-stop, attracting Kurong-san's attention. Seeing this, Wu Yan couldn't help but smile. He bent down and clapped his hands. He called a shepherd dog softly, "Come here. Come here." Seeing Wu Yan's action, Kurumi was startled. She nervously looked at the shepherd dog as if she was expecting it to come over. The shepherd dog seemed to be hesitating. It paced back and forth not far away. After a while it slowly took a step and walked towards Wu Yan. Seeing the shepherd dog coming, Kurumi became even more nervous. She held her breath as if she was afraid that her breathing would scare the shepherd dog away. As time passed, the shepherd dog finally got close enough to Wu Yan to lick his palm. Wu Yan laughed out loud and rubbed its head. After rubbing its head, the shepherd dog finally let down its guard and started barking. Honestly, this shepherd dog is pretty cute. Kurumi was so excited that her face turned red. She quickly squatted down and looked at the shepherd dog in front of her. She tilted her head. A trace of excitement could be seen on her face. It can be seen that Kurumi really liked animals. Wu Yan was observing Kurumi's performance. He smiled and turned his head towards Kurumi. "Why don't you touch it too?" Me. Kurumi was startled. She hesitated and said, "Can I? Won't it scare it away?" "It won't. Try it." Wu Yan shook his head with a smile. He didn't expect Kurumi to be so careful around an animal. She's worried about scaring it away when she's just touching it. No wonder she got so angry when she saw people bullying animals in the original work that she even summoned her spiritual equipment. Kurumi's eyes flickered. She looked at Wu Yan for a while and then looked at the shepherd dog barking at her. She couldn't help but like the shepherd dog. She finally reached out her hand and patted the shepherd dog's head. The shepherd dog comfortably snorted twice and barked at Kwang-san again. Then it ran in front of Kwang-san and threw itself on her, licking her cheeks. "Wait. It's itchy." Kurumi couldn't help but hug the shepherd dog. The wet and itchy feeling on her face made Kurumi laugh. For a moment, the scene of a young girl being licked by a dog and the smile on Kurumi's face formed a very beautiful scene. Chapter 464. Wu Yan narrowed his eyes as he looked at Kurumi, who was happily interacting with the shepherd dog. He walked to Kurumi's side and squatted down to pet the dog. Wu Yan's expression suddenly changed. Not good. Wu Yan's sudden words stunned Kurumi, who was playing with the shepherd dog. She looked at Wu Yan with surprise and asked, "What's wrong?" Wu Yan's expression darkened. His eyes flashed with a terrifying light. "There's something wrong with this shepherd dog. Is there a problem?" Kurumi was startled. After she reacted, she hurriedly stood up and patted the shepherd dog in a panic. "What's wrong? What's wrong? Is it sick?" "No." Wu Yan shook his head. "If I'm not wrong, this shepherd dog should have been infected with a virus." "Virus?" Kurumi's expression changed. I'm afraid it's the work of a..." Wu Yan said with a gloomy face. "I've seen this virus before. Although I don't know the name, I've seen AST people use it. The effect is terrible." "Then what should we do?" Kurumi frowned and tightened her grip on the shepherd dog in her arms. She was usually crazy, but at this moment she looked like she couldn't make up her mind. This was because Kurumi liked animals too much. "It doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it," Kurumi said worriedly. "There's nothing wrong with this shepherd dog. However, there's a big problem." Wu Yan smiled bitterly. "The organism infected with this virus won't have any abnormalities. However, it will release a kind of gas." "Gas?" Wu Yan said in a deep voice. "A kind of gas that can kill the surrounding organisms." "Kill the surrounding organisms?" Kuang San was startled. She abruptly turned her head to look at the shepherd dog that was still rubbing against her chest. Her eyes were filled with disbelief. "What you mean is that even we..." "That's right, we won't be spared either," Wu Yan said in a loud voice. He then stood up and looked at the shepherd dog. A murderous look flashed in his eyes. "Looks like I have no choice but to kill it." "What did you say?" Kuang San's expression changed drastically. An ominous glint flashed across her wine-red eyes as she looked at Wu Yan. "You said you want to kill it?" Kuang San's face was filled with madness. "That's right." Wu Yan raised his hand. Lightning flashed in his hand to prove his words. "Only by killing it will the virus die and the death gas will not be born." Following Wu Yan's words, the atmosphere became heavy. The passers-by around them disappeared without a trace. Other than the two who are staring at each other, there is only a flock of sheep and a few shepherd dogs lingering in the area. After a long time, Kuang San laughed. She stood up and looked at Wu Yan with an evil smile on her face. Sherdao is really something. It's rare to have a date, but you're talking about fighting and killing. It's so sad, so sad. There's nothing we can do about it." Wu Yan looked at Kuang San's eyes without fear. "If we don't do this, the death gas will continue to be released." "So what?" Kuang San smiled indifferently. "You and I won't die anyway, right?" Indeed, no matter how deadly the gas is, it's useless against Wu Yan, who has an immortal body, and Kuang San, who has countless lives in the timeline. Wu Yan seemed to have expected Kuang San's words. He sneered. "Yes, we won't die, but what about the sheep and shepherd dogs around us? What about the animals in this zoo?" Hearing this, Kuang San's smile froze. The cold look in her eyes was replaced by a little bit of panic. Although it disappeared quickly, Wu Yan still saw it. "So, for the sake of those innocent animals, this shepherd dog..." Wu Yan glanced at the shepherd dog coldly. "Must die." Kurumi's complexion slowly sank. Her wine-red pupils faintly flashed with a bit of madness, but more than that, there was hesitation and reluctance. She glanced at the shepherd dog beside her, who was wagging its tail at her. She gritted her teeth imperceptibly. "Do we have to do this?" "Then you say." Wu Yan looked at Kuang San mockingly. He said decisively. "Is there any other way to save those innocent lives except for killing the source?" Kuang San's body trembled slightly. She looked around at the animals in the zoo. Her face was a little pale and her hands were a little cold. For Kuang San, if she had to kill a person, she would do it without hesitation because it was just food for her. But animals were the only thing she liked. Now she was faced with a choice. Kill the shepherd dog and save all the animals. Otherwise, they would have to leave this shepherd dog behind and all the other animals would die. To her, this choice was too cruel. Woof. While Kuang San was struggling in his heart, the shepherd dog suddenly barked, waking Kuang San up. Kuang San seemed to have gone crazy as he shouted, No, no. No. You can't do this. Killing the source may not solve the problem. There must be another way. There must be a way to solve the problem without killing the source. Hearing Kuang San's words, Wu Yan's indifference and mockery disappeared in an instant. It was replaced by deep compassion. The lightning on his body also disappeared. So you also know that killing the source may not solve the problem. You will also look for other solutions. Kuang San was stunned. She didn't understand what was going on. Her face was a little blank. Wu Yan's next words were like a bolt of lightning that hit her head. You know this, so why are you so persistent in changing the past? Why do you want to go back to the past and erase the source? You. Kuang San couldn't help but step back. She looked at Wu Yan with a shocked face. How do you know? Looking at Kuang San, Wu Yan sighed. Kuang San, killing the source may not solve the problem. There must be a way to solve the problem without killing the source. Don't be obsessed with the wrong idea. Kuang San's body trembled. She raised her head and shouted crazily, "What do you understand? You don't understand anything." "No, I understand everything." Wu Yan rudely interrupted Kuang San and said loudly, "If you change the past, will the elves really cease to exist? Can you guarantee that there won't be another first elf in the future? With your brain, it's impossible that you don't understand this. You're just deceiving yourself." "No, that's not it. It's not like this." Kuang San stepped back step by step as if she had collapsed. She shouted at Wu Yan, "Only by killing the first elf can everything go back to the beginning. Everything can start over. Humans and elves shouldn't meet. The arrival of elves will only lead to sorrow. As long as we change everything, change everything." "Yes, that's right." Kuang San raised her head. Her wine-red eyes were full of fanaticism and fascination. She looked at Wu Yan as if she was looking at the most beautiful treasure. She laughed wildly. "So, Sherdao, in order to change everything, I came here to find you. I want to become one with you. You are the best. The best." As Kuang San's voice sounded, the surrounding air seemed to become a little sticky. "Saw." Kuang San reached out her hand to Wu Yan and smiled, "Be with me forever." Chapter 465. Be with me forever. A gentle breeze brushed past the scene, sweeping up a few green leaves. It swept past the two people who were facing each other from afar. Time seemed to have stopped at this moment. Looking at Kuang San, who was standing in front of him and reaching out her hand, Wu Yan sighed and said seriously, "If you mean be with me forever, then I refuse." Kuang San smiled like a flower. She didn't change her expression because of Wu Yan's words. However, her wine-red eyes shone with a scarlet light. Her smile became a bit ferocious. "Asher Dao." Kuang San tilted her head and said with a smile, every time you cruelly refuse me. But..." Kuang San raised her head. "I should have said that you can't refuse me." After saying that, a dark purple stream of air burst out from Kuang San's body. Black and purple ribbons revolved around Kuang San. Bits of black light emerged from Kuang San's body and floated into the air. At the same time, an evil and dark aura wrapped around Kuang San's body. "Divine spiritual equipment? 3 times, Elohim." Following that shout, the dark aura around Kuang San's body dissipated. A gothic dress appeared on her body. Her long black hair was tied into 2 ponytails. Her wine-red right eye flashed with scarlet light. The golden clock on her left eye also started to spin. "Kuang San." Wu Yan gritted his teeth and shouted, "How long are you going to lie to yourself like this?" "Shut up." Kuang San coldly looked at Wu Yan. Her hands shook and a long and short gun and rifle appeared in her hands. She crossed her hands and raised her head. "No matter what, you are mine. You can't escape. You can't escape." Hearing Kuang San's crazy words, Wu Yan's anger rose. He waved his hand and countless scarlet spatial ripples appeared behind him, pointing at Kuang San. His wine-red eyes turned into a noble gold color and a violent pressure descended on this space. "Since you insist on dreaming, then I will beat you awake even if I have to beat you." A voice that seemed to resound from the horizon echoed in this space. The pressure of a true ancestor mercilessly poured on Kuang San's body, causing her slender body to sink down. It was as if an entire sea of blood was pressing down on her body. A suffocating feeling swept through Kuang San's mind. The boundless anger of its master made this pressure seem like a real airflow. Kuang San felt like her body was being pressed down by a mountain, causing her bones to begin to creak. However, this kind of pressure not only didn't make Kuang San tremble, but she also couldn't help but laugh wildly. Her red and gold eyes stared straight at Wu Yan, who was like a demon god descending from the heavens. Her voice was full of infatuation and love as it came out of her mouth. Great. That's great. Sure enough, a scholar is the best. The best. I must have you. I must have you. Ha. Ha. Begin. Begin. At this time Kuang San had completely lost her mind. There was only one thought left in her mind, and that was to obtain Wu Yan. A moment ago the zoo was still quiet and serene. At this time, it was shrouded in a stormy atmosphere. The surrounding animals were like dinosaurs that had encountered the end of the world. They screamed in fear and fled into the distance. Soon the entire scene was left with only a man and a woman in a confrontation. Just as the two of them were about to collide, a series of sonic booms resounded in the distant sky. The two of them who were about to fight paused and looked up. I see. Seeing Tabichi Origami and the other armored girls, Wu Yan narrowed his golden eyes and he clicked his tongue in annoyance. It's them again? It wasn't just Wu Yan who was unhappy, Kuang San was also very unhappy. In the past she wouldn't feel this way even if she was killed, but now she felt this way. One can imagine how unhappy Kuang San was about Daoist's appearance. After all, this is a very rare feast, and the opponent is the man she is infatuated with. The AST's members didn't seem to know that a battle almost happened in the direction they came from. They also didn't know how critical their appearance was. With the support of the ejector, the AST's members flew above Wu Yan and Kuang San. They didn't fly down, they didn't even shoot directly like before. Instead, they quietly guarded the sky and surrounded the two on the ground. Seeing this, Wu Yan frowned. He was very confused. AST's concept of killing elves is to kill, why didn't they attack? Kurumi, on the other hand, seemed to know something. She turned her head to the side, attracting Wu Yan's attention. Wu Yan turned his head to look as well. The next moment, a figure entered his line of sight. Wu Yan was surprised. It was a petite girl of about 14 or 15 years of age with a bright face and a dark blue ponytail. She was wearing the same equipment as the members of AST, except that it was blue and white in color. There was a mole under her left eye and her eyes were a slightly dark brown. The girl seemed to know the two of them, or rather one of them. She stood there with an indifferent expression and looked at Kuang San, proving who she knew. Kuang San also knows this girl. Now it should be said that even Wu Yan knows her. Togothana. She's the sister of the original protagonist, Itsuka Shido. In other words, she's Shiori's sister here. Seeing Chogo Shina, Wu Yan's confusion disappeared. He looked around at the AST that surrounded them in the sky. No wonder the AST members didn't attack. It's because of this trump card. Togothana. The trump card of the army against the elves. In this world, other than Ratatosker, Daoist Machine was a military enterprise that provided military equipment to the military and police forces all over the world. He was also one of the employees assigned to AST. Of course, based on her identity alone, Eve wouldn't use Chogo Shina as the center to annihilate her. The real reason why AST members were willing to become a member of the encirclement was Chogo Shina's combat power. Chogo Shina may be only 14 or 15 years old, but in terms of combat power, even if everyone in ST worked together, they might not be able to defeat her. Of course, Chogo Shina's unique equipment contributed to this. However, Chogo Shina's combat power can't be ignored. Even Kuang San is no match for Chogo Shina if she doesn't use Angel. That's why Chogo Shina has killed Kuang San countless times in the past. One can only imagine how strong Chogo Shina is. After all, in order to cultivate such a trump card, Chogo Shina was modified by Daoist Machine. She has less than 10 years left to live. Chogo Shina doesn't know about all of this. After filtering through all the information about Chogo Shina in his mind, Wu Yan couldn't help but frown. He looked at Chogo Shina, who's expressionless and emotionless. His golden eyes flashed. He felt a bit helpless. Since she's Shiori's sister, he can't just stand by and watch her die. Chapter 466. Inside the zoo, Wu Yan and Kurumi stood in the middle of an empty field facing each other. Not far away from them is Zhou Xian, who is looking at Kurumi. In the sky, a group of AST members raised their cannons and aimed at the two on the ground, forming an encirclement. In the sky, Tabichi Origami scanned the two on the ground before stopping at Wu Yan. She was surprised by what she saw. Why would he appear here? What's wrong, Origami? Origami. The captain of AST turned around when she heard Origami's soft muttering. However, she did not hear Origami's words. Seeing that Origami had no intention of replying, she looked in the direction Origami was looking at. When the captain of AST saw Wu Yan, he couldn't help but frown. That guy, why does he look a bit like the red devil that descended a while ago and never appeared again? After saying that, the captain of said something into the radio in his ear, then quickly shook his head. No, there's no trace of psychic waves on him. He shouldn't be the red devil. But why does he look so similar? Origami, you fought with the red devil before. Can you tell if that boy is the red devil that appeared once? The captain of AST asked Origami. Tabichi Origami didn't say anything. She turned her head away and didn't look at Wu Yan anymore. The captain of AST seemed to have understood the situation. Looks like he's not that mysterious there, devil. The captain of AST knows that Koichi Origami is hostile towards elves. If the other party is an elf, she wouldn't try to protect him. He might even attack him. When Koichi Origami didn't pay any attention to Wu Yan, she knew that the other party isn't the red devil she imagined him to be. However, the captain of didn't notice that when Origami looked away, there was a complicated expression in her eyes. Hey, boy over there. The AST captain flew down and yelled at Wu Yan. It's dangerous here. Get out of here. On the ground, Wu Yan didn't know that when he first arrived in this world he gained a new name. To be more precise, he gained a new nickname called their devil. Currently he's looking at Zhou Xian not far away from him. His mind is spinning rapidly. Zhou Xian finally noticed Wu Yan. He glanced at Wu Yan but he didn't change his expression. He told Kurumi. Your appetite seems to have decreased a bit this time. I thought you would need at least 3 or 4 people to satisfy your appetite. Nightmare. Era. Kurumi glanced at Zhou Xian contemptuously and said, What do you know? Sherdao is completely different from food. Zhou Xian opened his mouth and said in surprise, This is the first time I've heard you talk about a human like that. Didn't you always treat humans as food? Human. Kurumi smiled meaningfully and didn't say anything. She glanced at Wu Yan and said regretfully, but it seems my date with Sherdao can't go on. What a pity. Date. Zhou Xian frowned and glanced at Wu Yan. Zhou Xian felt the man in front of him wasn't an ordinary person. Disregarding everything else, if a normal person were to see a sky full of and himself as well as Nightmare, who had revealed his spiritual equipment, even if they weren't scared to death, they would definitely be scared to death. However, the man in front of them, from the moment Nightmare revealed his spiritual equipment to the moment they appeared, let alone being scared, there wasn't even the slightest bit of surprise on his face. From the beginning to the end he had a calm expression on his face. Coupled with Kurumi's previous words, Zhou Xian had a feeling that this man wasn't an ordinary person. At least he wasn't like those ignorant people who were devoured by Nightmare. It seemed like this man had some understanding of elves and the like. With that in mind, Janamiya Shina's gaze towards Wu Yan wasn't as calm and indifferent as before. He glanced at Wu Yan before turning to Kurumi. Anyway, since I'm here, whatever you want to do, stop it. Zhou Xian's exposed light armor opened up 2 openings on his shoulder. At the same time, several small laser beams shot out from the openings towards Kurumi. Kurumi twisted her body and dodged to the side. However, the laser beams were like homing missiles. They made a turn in the air and persevered towards Kurumi. She had no choice but to keep dodging. For a moment, the scene of the laser beams chasing after Kurumi flashed across the scene. Kurumi repeatedly dodged the incoming laser beams and even flew up into the air. However, the AST members surrounded her tightly in the air, making it impossible for her to fly up again. She could only dodge in a small area. But soon the laser beams became faster and faster. At some point the laser beams finally caught up with Kurumi. Several laser beams mercilessly pierced through Kurumi's heart. Kurumi's eyes widened. Then she fell to the ground from the sky. Bang! The sound of her body hitting the ground resounded. The violent impact caused Kwang San to spit out a mouthful of blood. The blood dyed her face red. Blood slowly flowed out from her heart and dyed the ground red. In the sky, the AST members saw this scene. Even though they've seen it before, they still couldn't help but admire Chong Gongzana. In the past, AST had been dispatched many times, but never once did they manage to kill a fairy. However, Chong Gongzana did it. How could they not admire him? What they didn't know was that, strictly speaking, Chong Gongzana didn't actually kill the elf, because Kurumi had countless incarnations of herself in the timeline. She couldn't die unless all of her incarnations were destroyed, or her original body was killed. Unfortunately, when the AST people appeared, Kurumi had already been swapped out. In other words, the Kurumi on the ground was just a fake. The real Kurumi was nowhere to be found. Sherdao. On the ground, the dying Kurumi struggled to raise her head. Blood spurted out from her mouth. She reached out her hand to Wu Yan and said reluctantly, You are my thing. In the end, you will become mine. You can't refuse me. After saying that, Kurumi lost all her strength. Her hand that reached out to Wu Yan slowly fell down. Wu Yan's expression didn't change as he looked at Kurumi lying on the ground covered in blood. His calm demeanor surprised the AST members and Chong Mia-shina. Inside, they didn't feel too good about it. He knew that the Kurson in front of him wasn't the real Kurson, but he was the Kurson from the past. In other words, the Kurson who was about to die was the real Kurson who came from the past to the present. She abandoned her past. Wu Yan looked up at the sky in a daze. Chapter 467. Seeing Kwang San on the verge of death, Chong Gongzhana didn't stop. Instead, he pulled out a huge lightsaber and walked towards Kwang San, who was about to die on the ground step by step, as if he was afraid that Kwang San wouldn't die and wanted to kill him completely. This was understandable. After all, Chong Gongzhana had killed Kurumi many times in the past. However, every time Kurumi died, she would appear again and devour humans. Chong Gongzhana had no choice but to do so. Chong Gongzhana came before Kurumi with his lightsaber. He looked at Kurumi's pierced heart and bloodied face. There was no trace of pity in his eyes, only numbness. This was proof of Chong Gongzhana's vicissitudes of life, and it also recorded the number of times he killed Kurumi. Raising the light sword in his hand, Chong Gongzhan planned to put the light sword on Kwang San's neck as usual and then cut her throat. Chong Gongzhan only hoped that this time he could kill Kwang San completely and make her unable to come back to life. However, just as Chong Gongzhan was about to slash the light sword in her hand, a hand suddenly appeared beside her and grabbed her hand that was holding the sword. Chong Gongzhan was shocked. She subconsciously turned her head to look. Suddenly, she saw a face that had not changed at all from the beginning to the end. She was stunned. Not only her but even the AST in the sky were stunned. What are you doing? Chong Gongzhana was puzzled. She knew that the man in front of her wasn't an ordinary person, but Kurumi wanted to eat him. Then why did he stop her from killing Kurumi? Glancing at Chong Gongzhana's puzzled expression, Wu Yan sighed. You don't need to comfort yourself with this method. After all, even if you do, you know that it's useless. Chong Gongzhana lowered his head and said expressionlessly, You don't understand. Tokisaki Kurumi is a special elf. No matter how many times you kill her, she will come back to life. So you can kill her completely by doing this? Wu Yan interrupted Chong Gongzhana's explanation. Chong Gongzhana was silent. Wu Yan didn't say anything else. He turned his head and looked at Kurumi, who was struggling to open her eyes. Wu Yan could see that Kurumi was fascinated by him, mocking Chong Gongzhana, indifferent to her impending death and confusion about Wu Yan's behavior. Wu Yan bent down and reached out his hand to wipe the blood on Kurumi's face under everyone's puzzled, confused and surprised eyes. Abandoning the past is the past, the past, the past and the future. If you don't have the courage to accept the past, how can you go to the future? Of course, how can you change? Kurumi stared blankly at Wu Yan, who was gently wiping the blood on her face. Her mouth moved as if she wanted to say something. However, her body became cold and she gradually lost her strength, so she couldn't say anything. She could only stare blankly at Wu Yan. After wiping the blood off Kurumi's face, Wu Yan smiled and stroked Kurumi's cheek. "You're much prettier now." After that, Wu Yan looked at Kurumi absent-mindedly and murmured, "I really want to save you this time." Hearing that, Kurumi's slackened pupils became more focused. However, after a while they began to slacken again. This time they slackened faster. When the last bit of vitality was about to disappear, Kurumi looked deeply at Wu Yan. There was a hint of reluctance in her eyes, as if she couldn't bear to part with Wu Yan. Then she completely disappeared. Wu Yan's hand paused. He touched her eyes and buried her unfocused pupils under her eyelids. Then he slowly stood up. No one noticed that in a corner far away, a red figure was slowly retreating until it disappeared. Looking at Kurumi, who had completely lost all signs of life, Shina and the people from Daoist breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Then they shifted their attention to the only person who was not related to them. "You." Shina opened his mouth. He hesitated for a moment and then turned around. "Forget it. You'd better leave this place quickly. Although you don't look like you don't know anything, it's better if you don't tell anyone about what happened today." Wu Yan didn't have time to respond. The other members of Daoist were stunned. They looked at each other. Is it okay to let her go just like that? However, they didn't object. Just like what Shina said, it's fine if they don't tell anyone about what happened here. Even if they did, not many people would believe them. Wu Yan scratched his face and shrugged. He smiled and said, "Well, I do want to leave, but you'll have to come with me." Shina paused and turned around. He asked in confusion, "Why do I have to go with you? Are you threatening me?" Wu Yan rolled his eyes and said, "Why would I do that? What's in it for me?" "Then what do you want?" Shina was a little unhappy. If it wasn't for Wu Yan's extraordinary performance, Shina wouldn't have talked so much to a stranger. Of course, Wu Yan's next sentence made Shina lose his composure. Wu Yan looked at Shina with a smile and said, "Your sister wants you to go home for dinner." Shina was stunned. Looking at Shiori, who was standing in front of him, who looked 90% similar to him and looked a bit more mature, Shina became very excited and even his body began to tremble. "Sister." In the end, Zana couldn't hold back his excitement. He immediately jumped onto Shiori's body and wrapped his arms around her neck. He laughed happily. Everyone reacted differently when they heard Zhan calling Shiori Wanisama. Toka and Yobi were shocked. They still haven't recovered from the fact that Shiori has a younger sister. Kotori was a bit annoyed that her older sister got a younger sister out of nowhere. Wu Yan, on the other hand, felt a chill down his spine. If he wasn't 100% sure that this is the date battle world, if he wasn't 100% sure that the person rubbing his face against Shiori's chest is Shina, he would have thought that Shina is Kuriko when he heard that sweet Wanisama. Shina. Shiori hugged Shina happily. When Wu Yan called and said he found her sister, Shiori almost cut her finger while cutting fruit. After all, Shiori didn't remember having a sister. Of course, Kotori wasn't her biological sister. However, Shiori, who was waiting at home with doubts, believed 90% of Wu Yan's words the moment she saw Shina. Not only because Shina's face was very similar to hers, but also because the faint throbbing in her heart made Shiori believe that the child in front of her was her sister. Her biological sister. Maybe this is the so-called blood connection. Blood is thicker than water. Apart from Kotori, who was a little jealous, everyone couldn't help but smile at the sight of this pair of sisters who shared a 90% resemblance with each other. They had to admit that this scene was really heartwarming. Chapter 468. It has to be said that compared to siblings, sisters were undoubtedly much closer. In the original work, although Shinobu and Shido were very close, at most they would hug each other. But if they were sisters, it was different. Shiori and Shina have been holding each other's hands ever since they recognized each other. If it wasn't for the fact that it's not time yet, the two sisters would have taken a bath together. Looking at the pair of sisters standing together with identical smiles on their faces, Wu Yan couldn't help but sigh. Shiori and Shina really look alike. Of course. Shina proudly puffed up her chest. Because I'm Wanisama's sister. Shiori, who's in Shiori's hand, laughed and waved her little hands. I wonder if you're born from the same mother or an illegitimate child. If they were ordinary sisters, they would definitely retort after hearing Shino's teasing. However, what was surprising was that the two sisters in front of them looked at each other in dismay after looking at each other. There was also a trace of confusion. Seeing such a situation, everyone was stunned. Even Sharona said weakly, "Could it be that Sharona was right? Shiori was just joking." "No, it's not like that." Shiori quickly waved her hand, but she still looked a bit confused. Even Shino was a bit frustrated. "The reason why I didn't answer is because I don't have any memories of the past." She doesn't have any memories of the past. Shiori looked at Shina in surprise and held her hand tightly. "Shina, I lost my memories too. I didn't even know I had a sister like you." Kotori furrowed her brows. "Since you lost your memories, how did you know Wanisama is your sister?" Shiori looked at Kotori strangely. Kotori's expression froze. She realized that she didn't act like a sister in front of Shiori. She immediately showed an innocent and cheerful smile. It's like she said those words without thinking. Wu Yan was secretly amused. Bang! In an instant, Wu Yan's snickering face turned green. "It's as ugly as a pile of shit." Everyone heard a faint sound and they turned their heads. "What's wrong, Saito?" Toka tilted her head and asked. If she heard correctly, the sound came from Wu Yan's body. "Well, no, it's nothing." Wu Yan shrugged his shoulders while forcing a smile on his face. The confused crowd turned their heads back to look at Wu Yan. At the same time, from an undetectable corner, a small foot that was stepping on top of Wu Yan's toe moved back, revealing Wu Yan's swollen toe that looked like a pig's trotter. Enduring the excruciating pain, Wu Yan looked at Kotori, who is standing beside him. Kotori flashed him a sweet smile. If it weren't for the black ribbons on her head, Wu Yan would have believed that the leg he just kicked wasn't hers. Who knows, maybe it wasn't her leg. "Kotori, you're so ruthless. Even if you're immortal, you shouldn't play around like this." With a true ancestor's powerful recovery ability, this small injury healed quickly. However, Wu Yan gnashed his teeth and looked at Kotori. Her bright smile made his anger rise. Bang! Kotori's expression changed. If Wu Yan's face turned green, Kotori's face turned crimson. "Why you?" Kotori angrily glared at Wu Yan. Everyone turned to look at Wu Yan and Kotori when they heard the commotion. "There's another sound just now." Toka wrinkled her nose, her crystal purple eyes scanned the two. And this time it seems to be coming from Kotori. Under everyone's puzzled gaze, Kotori could only suppress the shame in her heart and forced an ugly smile. "No. No." Toka, Yoshino, Shiori, and Shinana looked at each other with furrowed brows. They looked at Wu Yan, who is looking up at the sky, and then at Kotori, who is trying to force a smile on her face. Their instincts told them that they missed out on something. "It's really strange." Fur mumbled softly and lowered her head. Everyone could only helplessly turn their heads again. Although they felt that something had happened, they couldn't do anything about it since the person involved didn't want to talk about it. They could only bury their doubts in their hearts. Moreover, the most important thing now was the matter between Shina and Shiori. When everyone looked away, Kotori's smile fell. She touched her breasts and felt the burning sensation. She looked up to look for Wu Yan, but this time, Wu Yan was already beside Yoshino and carried her away. "Damn it!" Kotori cursed Wu Yan in her heart. If Shiori and the others weren't here, Kotori wouldn't have suffered such a loss. She could only comfort her breasts. At the same time, Shina handed a necklace with a picture on it to everyone. Inside the necklace, there's a picture of Shina and Shiori when they were young. "Although I don't have any memories of the past, I will never mistake you for someone else. You and I are definitely biological sisters. We have the same father and mother," Jin said with a firm look. Everyone could hear the conviction in her voice. "That's right, although I don't remember Gina. But Gina gave me a very familiar and intimate feeling, so I believe that Gina is my little sister." Shiori hugged Gina and said, making Gina feel very touched. "It's a pity that I can't find out about my parents." Shirji said disappointedly. She thought that her sister was with her parents. She didn't expect her sister to be the same as her. She wasn't with her parents. Speaking up to hear, Shiori suddenly thought of something and smiled at Shina. "Right, Shina, where do you live now? Is there someone raising you? If so, Wanisama has to pay a visit." Shina was stunned. Her face began to panic. She didn't know what to do. Should she tell her sister that she didn't have anyone to raise her and that she spent all these years training and fighting? Of course, that's impossible. That, Shirori. At this time Wu Yan opened his mouth. Xina lives far away. I happened to meet her today and accidentally saw her necklace. That's why I brought her back. If you want to pay a visit now, it's a bit late. Maybe another day. Yes, Wunia, let's talk about it another day. Xina quickly nodded. Although she didn't know what to do when another day comes, she had to deal with this first. I see. Shirori thought for a moment and then nodded unwillingly. It's good. I'll pay a visit to Shina's family another day. Xina breathed a sigh of relief. But soon she was distressed. What should she do when Wanithama comes to her house? She can't bring Wani-sama to the company or Ace. Wu Yan saw Jin Na's frustration, but he didn't say anything about it. He had his own plans. He can't let Jin Na go back to her house. Otherwise, Jin Na might be modified into something that's neither human nor ghost. It's better to let her stay here. Of course, he can also let her stay at home. But Wu Yan has an even better place for her to go. He can give Jin Na. Chapter 469. Xianxia, who is in the middle of being intimate with Shirori, doesn't know that Wu Yan has already arranged her escape route. Shiori's words put her in a difficult position. Xianxia, since you live so far away, why don't you stay here tonight? Shirori tightened her grip on Xianxia's hand. She doesn't have any memories of Xianxia, but Xianxia is still her sister. Shirori has a lot of questions to ask Xianxia about her life. Jin Na was put in a difficult position. After all, she was now a member of AST, and lived in the workplace. If she did not return on time, it could be a big deal. Just like the military dormitory, nothing could be accomplished without rules. Even if Jin Na wanted to spend more time with Shirori, she had no choice but to reject her. Before Xianxia can say anything, Wu Yan spoke again. Shirori, don't make things difficult for Xianxia. If she doesn't go back tonight, her family will be worried. She's only 14 years old after all. If that's the case then, all right then. Shirori hesitated for a moment before she reluctantly let out a sigh. Then at least stay for dinner? Is that okay? Hey sister. This time, Jin Na didn't refuse and immediately agreed with a smile. Jin Na could feel her elder sister's love for her from her words. She was very moved and felt guilty that she couldn't agree to her elder sister's request. Now that it was just a meal, of course, Jin Na wouldn't refuse. Shirori nodded with satisfaction. Originally, I should have let you eat Shidao's dishes, but let me cook for you today, okay Shidao? Wu Yan nodded after hearing Shiori's words. Being lazy and not doing anything is a good thing. However, there are some people who are dissatisfied with this. Sigh. Toka and Kotori sighed with reluctance. Even Xianxia looked pitiful. It's obvious that they want to eat Wu Yan's cooking more than Shiori's. Shirji put her hands on her waist and pouted. What do you mean by that? Is my cooking really that bad? It's not that bad. Sister's cooking is good too. Kotori said shyly. Toka sucked on her finger, her eyes watered. But Shido's cooking is better. Shirji rolled her eyes at the girls, turned her head away angrily and walked to the kitchen. Then I'll only cook for Xianxia and Shido tonight. You guys don't have to eat. No. Toka, Kotori and Xianxia were shocked and begged for mercy. Shirori rolled her eyes when she saw their teary eyes. She didn't know what to do with them. Shirori entered the kitchen and he sat down on the sofa. Wu Yan tapped the back of his hand and he looked at Xianxia. Xianxia, I have something I want to say to you. The moment he said that, all four pairs of eyes landed on him at the same time. Their gazes seemed to have materialized and they pierced his face until his expression froze. What are you trying to do? Kotori narrowed her eyes. She stared at Wu Yan with a wary look. Wu Yan felt a little restless. Hey, what's with that look? Wu Yan's mouth twitched. I just want to talk to Xianxia about something serious. Why are you looking at me like I'm an idiot? Is that so? Kotori is very skeptical of Wu Yan's words. She pursed her lips in disbelief. It's hard to tell if she's pissed at Wu Yan or if she's pissed at Shinobi. Maybe both. Kotori isn't as forgiving towards Xianxia as she is towards the other elves. This sister who came out of nowhere made Kotori unhappy. She's not sure if it's because her sister's surname was stolen from her. As for Wu Yan, there are many things she's unhappy about. Kotori's nipples are still burning with pain. Wu Yan's face twitched. He slapped the table and said angrily, "Do I look like the kind of person who would attack a girl I've only known for a day? Ha ha ha." Kotori sneered. She glanced at Wu Yan in disdain and mocked him. "Then who was the one who attacked a sister you've only known for a day?" Wu Yan choked. He couldn't find any words to refute her. His face fell and he wanted to cry, but no tears came out. "Well, who told him to have a criminal record? This time I really have something to talk to you about." Wu Yan raised his hand weakly to defend himself. Kotori only snorted coldly. "That." She lowered her head awkwardly. She really didn't know why the topic suddenly changed to such a strange place. At the moment she could only embarrassedly interrupt. "Big brother, what do you want to talk to me about?" "Oniai-sama." "Lord Big Brother." Hearing this form of address, the expressions of the people present were all different. However, all of them contained a trace of strangeness. Looking at Jin Na, who seemed to have no idea what he had said and had a natural expression, everyone looked at each other. Wu Yan coughed and put on a serious face. "Anyways, this title isn't bad, it feels good, Xianxia." Wu Yan looked at Xianxia seriously and said, "If I'm not mistaken, you've been living in Deus Ex Machine ever since you lost your memory, right?" Jin Na suddenly raised his head and said in surprise, How did you know?" "Deus Ex Machine?" Kotori was also shocked. "That military enterprise that provides equipment to military and police forces all over the world other than Ratatosker, the Deus Ex Machine Company?" Kotori's words made Xianxia even more shocked. "How did you know about it?" "Xianxia." Wu Yan stood up and walked up to Xianxia. He said seriously, "If possible, I hope you can leave Deus Ex Machine." "What?" Xianxia looked at Wu Yan and he shook his head without hesitation. "That's impossible." Kotori couldn't help but frown. "Why would you want to stay in a black-hearted company like that?" "Yeah, black-hearted company." Xianxia's eyes flickered. "But it's this black-hearted company that gave me a place to stay and a reason to exist after I lost my memory." "Xianxia, you're wrong." Wu Yan looked straight into Xianxia's eyes and said something shocking. "Do you know that they've already modified your body inhumanely? You only have 10 years left to live." "What?" Kotori and the others were dumbfounded. Then they shook their heads desperately. "No, you're lying. Do you think I need to lie to you?" Wu Yan looked at Xianxia. "Whether your body has been modified or not, a simple examination will reveal the truth. Do you think I would tell such an easily exposed lie?" Xianxia took 2 steps back. Her face was full of disbelief. Her delicate body trembled. Her eyes were filled with unprecedented fluctuations as if she was about to collapse. 10 years. Xianxia looked at his hands. His eyes were filled with sadness. He didn't expect that he would receive such a piece of news when he just met his family. Even Kotori, Toka, and Yoshino couldn't help but turn their heads away. Wu Yan looked at Xianxia's expression. "Well, Xianxia, you don't need to worry about your lifespan. I have a way to restore you to normal." Hearing this, Jin Na's face looked much better, but there was still an indelible sadness in her eyes. She really didn't expect that the place she had always been grateful to would treat her like this. Exhaling, Wu Yan placed his hand on Xianxia's shoulder. "Xianxia, join Ratatosker." "Ratatosker?" Xianxia was stunned once again. Chapter 470. In the kitchen, Shirori is humming a little song. She finished all the work at hand and put down the spatula. Looking at the table full of dishes, Shirori nodded with satisfaction. She took off her apron and walked out of the kitchen. "It's time to eat." Shirori came to the hall and said to everyone with a smile. In front of her, Wu Yan, Kotori, Toka, Yoshino and Xianxia are chatting happily. Shirori can't help but smile. "Yes. What do you want?" Jin Na stood up and said happily, "Big sister's personal cooking is really something to look forward to. Hee, I'm very confident in my own craftsmanship." Shirori straightened her back but then said with a bit of frustration, "Although compared to Shido's cooking, my cooking is only at the level of unpalatable." "Toei. The dishes made by sister will definitely be delicious." Zhen hurriedly said, which made the disheartened Shiori burst into laughter. Alright, you don't need to console me. Shido's cooking is at the level of a monster. It's a bit unfair to compare me to him. She rolled her eyes at Wu Yan, who is standing not too far away from her. Wu Yan chuckled in embarrassment. Hey, let's eat, Shiji said with a smile. Almost at the same time, Shiji stood up impatiently and pounced toward the table. Zhen was startled and hurriedly followed her. Seeing this, Shiori let out a sigh of relief and said emotionally, I never thought I would have a long-lost sister. Hearing Shiori's words, Wu Yan and Kotori, who stood up from the sofa, stiffened. They laughed dryly and pretended they didn't hear anything. They pulled Yoshino and walked to the table. Shiori laughed. Shiori's heart warmed as she looked at everyone eating. She likes this warm feeling very much. Perhaps this is what they mean by happiness comes from dullness. Of course, Shiori didn't know that when she thought it was dullness, there was a very unusual conversation going on in the hall where she stood. Looking at Shina, who is happily eating Shiori's cooking, Wu Yan didn't show any expression on his face, but he inwardly released a sigh of relief. Just now, when he proposed to let Shina join Ratatosker, Shina's reaction was quite intense. Shina didn't know much about Ratatosker, but he knew that it was an organization on par with Do X Machine. Shina didn't expect her sister's family members to be members of such an organization. Plus, she got to know about herself from Wu Yan's mouth. Shina's reaction is a bit big. When Wu Yan told Shina the purpose of Ratatosker, which is to say the plan to save the elves, Shina's body trembled. Before this, Shinra accepted the idea that if you encounter a fairy you have to kill them. She killed Kurumi so many times that her heart was numb from all the killing. Now Wu Yan wants her to join an organization that saves fairies. Is there anything more laughable than this in the world? Thus, she rejected Wu Yan's invitation. She even made up her mind to never meddle in the affairs of the elves ever again. Of course, the moment this thought appeared, it was shattered by the following events. Toka, a naive foodie Yoshino, and a shy little girl. Shina had a good impression of these two girls when she first met them. They were elves. Although they only got along for less than an hour, Zhao Hai could feel that Toka and Yoshino were very friendly towards him. They were also very kind-hearted. These two kind-hearted girls were actually elves. Elves just like Kurumi's perverted elf. Elves, aren't they a special species that brings disaster? At this moment, Shina's view of elves was shaken like never before. If they are such elves, should she help them or not? When Shina was hesitating, Wu Yan's next words made her completely abandon her hesitation. If the elves' affairs are not properly handled, it will lead to a big disaster. Do you have the heart to see Shiori get involved in such an incident? When these words reached Shina's ears, Shina no longer hesitated and immediately agreed. Whether it was killing elves or saving elves, as long as he could ensure his sister's safety, he was willing to do anything. After being betrayed by Toka, Shina only has her dearest sister left in her heart. Moreover, Wu Yan and Kotori don't look like the elves in Toka, who are difficult to get along with. Because of this, Shina officially joined Ratatosker and became a general under Wu Yan's command. After all, Shina's combat power is so strong that even some of the weaker elves are no match for her. In terms of combat power alone, not counting the elves, she's definitely at the top of Ratatosker. Only Wu Yan can stand on the same level as her. If she doesn't use her combat power, she'll be struck by lightning. As for the advanced equipment that belonged to the Do Color X machine, there was no reason for him to return it. After dealing with Shina's matter, Wu Yan can finally breathe a sigh of relief. As for Shina's body, this is the easiest thing to deal with. There's still a large bottle of gene recovery fluid left in his Gate of Babylon. With the addition of Shina, the Itsuka family became a lot livelier. It used to be just Shiori and Kotori, but now Wu Yan is the elder brother, Shina is the younger sister, and Toka and Yokoi are the two elves. Shiori and Kotori couldn't have imagined such a lively scene in the past. Of course, the two of them didn't hate this kind of feeling. After dinner, Wu Yan and Kotori used the excuse of sending Shina off to Fraxinus. Rain Murasame was in charge of taking care of Shina. Shina also got to know Yatsuki Chinyu, who is also in the same unit as her. With the help of the gene reagent, Shina recovered to her peak condition. Shina naturally moved into Fraxinus. Shina wasn't happy with this arrangement. It's not that Fraxinus isn't a good place to live. It's just that compared to living here, Shino would rather live in Itsuka's house. Unfortunately, the Itsuka family's territory isn't that big. After Wu Yan, Toka, and Yoshino moved in, the Itsuka family's territory is pretty much full. Xianxia had no choice but to give up on this idea. Finally, the matter reached a happy ending for everyone. Of course, this is only on the surface. Nighttime, Shiori's room in Itsuka's house. Shiori wiped her hair and was about to change into her pajamas when she suddenly felt a sharp pain in the back of her head. Then Shiori completely lost her consciousness. Inside Toka and Yoshino's room, the two women who were sleeping on the bed disappeared after a strange whirlwind came in from the window. At the same time, in Kotori's room, a red shadow suddenly appeared in front of the bed. Kotori, who was sleeping on the bed, heard the noise and opened her eyes. Her pupils shrunk when she saw the figure in front of her. "It's you." In the darkness, the red shadow cackled wickedly and slowly walked out of the shadows. Kotori saw a pair of eyes, one gold and one red. Chapter 471. The next morning, just as dawn broke in Wu Yan's room, Wu Yan opened his eyes and woke up from his sleep. This was simply an incredible thing. Almost everyone who was familiar with Wu Yan knew that Wu Yan's attachment to his bed was almost no less than 3 meals. In the past, if he was not woken up, he would wake up naturally. Otherwise, if there was nothing, Wu Yan would absolutely not get up so early. However, today was different. Sitting up from the bed, Wu Yan glanced at the sky outside the window. It was only a little bright. He touched his chest and frowned deeply. Usually at this time, Wu Yan's sleepiness was even stronger than a pig. If he did not sleep enough, he would only be woken up. However, the current Wu Yan did not have a trace of sleepiness at all, not even a little bit. Just now, Wu Yan, who was still immersed in his sleep, was awakened by a dull feeling for no reason. After waking up, a bad premonition arose in his heart. It was as if he had missed something important. A hint of worry flashed in his wine-red pupils. Wu Yan's face also showed an unresolvable worry. Wu Yan could feel that his abnormal behavior today was definitely not without reason. There must be something. With this thought, the dull feeling in Wu Yan's heart became even stronger. Immediately, Wu Yan directly got up from the bed and walked towards the door. However, just as the door was opened by him, the scene that appeared in front of him made Wu Yan's pair of pupils shrink fiercely. He saw that a layer of dark purple shadow was covering the position of his room door, and it also extended to the floor and the ceiling. It was like a layer of film wrapping his room inside. His heart slowly sank. Wu Yan's face turned ugly. In this situation, coupled with his intuition, even a fool would know that something must have happened. Bang! With a muffled sound, the dark purple film wrapping around Wu Yan's room exploded into little sparks and disappeared into the air. At the same time, Wu Yan's figure flashed out of it. The moment the membrane disappeared, Wu Yan's expression changed. He can feel that there isn't a single trace of life in Itsuka's house. In other words, he's the only one left in Itsuka's house. The bad premonition in his heart completely rushed to Wu Yan's heart. Wu Yan's face turned ugly to the extreme. He suddenly leaped out and arrived at Kotori's room. Kotori. The door was violently opened and the scene in Kotori's room was imprinted in Wu Yan's eyes. It was exactly the same as Wu Yan's impression of Kotori's room, but Kotori was gone. Wu Yan's face turned gloomy. After leaving Kotori's room, Wu Yan used his speed to the extreme and went to Toka, Yoshino and Shiori's room. But without exception, there were no familiar figures in these rooms. Not only Kotori but even Toka, Yoshino and Shiori also disappeared. Combined with the strange film from before and the current phenomenon, there was only one explanation. Kotori and the others were very likely kidnapped. Standing in the middle of the hall, Zhang Tai glanced around the entire Wu He residence. The usual noises in the morning had disappeared completely. The entire Wu He residence was unusually quiet. If someone were to stand in this quiet atmosphere, they would probably lose their mind due to the terrifying pressure that engulfed the entire Wu He residence. The surrounding air seems to have turned into a solid blood aura, glowing red and floating back and forth in the entire hall. Wu Yan raised his head. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. Bright golden light flashed in his wine-red eyes. Murderous intent and ferocious aura swept across his eyes. At this moment, This pair of beautiful eyes turned into the most deadly coldness. Wu Yan's chest heaved up and down as he breathed heavily, forcing himself to calm down. But the anger in his chest couldn't be suppressed at all. The more he suppressed it, the fiercer it rebounded. Until Wu Yan's ear, the wireless headset that he never took off, sounded. Only then did the terrifying pressure that pervaded the entire Itsuka house was suppressed. "Sir, can you hear me? Sir?" Ling Yin. Wu Yan's entire body trembled. He quickly pressed down on the wireless headset and shouted, "Ling Yin. It's me." After Wu Yan's voice sounded, Ling Yin's relieved voice sounded from the other side of the wireless headset. "That's great. You finally replied. Ling Yin, what in the world happened? From what you've been saying, it sounds like you've been looking for me. Kotori, Toka, Shirori and the others are all missing. Do you know what's going on? Hurry up and tell me." "Calm down first." Ling Yin's emotionless voice sounded from the other side of the headset, calming down Wu Yan's boundless impatience a little. "Ling Yin, what happened?" "Kurumi." Ling Yin's words caused Wu Yan's expression to change again. "Last night, Toshisaki Kurumi kidnapped Kotori, Toka, Shirori and the others. We received Kotori's distress signal in Fraxinus, but it was cut off as soon as it rang. The only thing we could receive was Toshisaki Kurumi's name. We couldn't contact you, so we thought you were in Toshisaki Kurumi's hands." "Kurumi." Wu Yan lowered his head, the anger in his heart is rising. No wonder Toshisaki was able to kidnap Kotori and the others without anyone noticing. If it was Kurumi, then it wouldn't be that strange. The dark purple membrane around his room was probably set up by Kurumi to block his senses, right? It's also because of that layer that Ling Yin and the others couldn't contact him. I was tricked. Wu Yan said with a cold smile. Ling Yin couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. She knows Wu Yan is really angry this time. "I can let you do whatever you want. I can also let you reveal your desire to eat me all the time because I know you're also a pitiful person. However, Kwangsun, this time you've really pissed me off. A pitiful person must have a hateful side. You shouldn't have done anything to the people around me." Looking at the ceiling, Wu Yan finished his speech without any fluctuation in his tone. Ling Yin, who is far above Tiangong City, could feel the anger hidden beneath that calm tone. It's like the calm before the storm, the pressure before the eruption of a volcano. It's enough to send chills down one's spine. "Ling Yin, did you find Kurumi's location?" Suppressing his anger, Wu Yan calmed himself down before he told Ling Yin. Since Kurumi went to great lengths to cut off the connection between his room and the outside world, and didn't do anything to him, but kidnapped Kotori and the others, there was no doubt that her true goal was him. Just like in the original work, Kurumi threatened Itsuka Shido with the lives of all the students of Dakurai Zen High School. Perhaps in her eyes this was just a game. But for Wu Yan this is a reverse scale that cannot be touched. In the command room of Fraxinus, Ling Yin looked up at the coordinates displayed on the big screen and said, "Ah, we found it not long ago. We couldn't contact you, so Jin Na and Yi went there first." "What?" Wu Yan is shocked. No one knows Kurumi's true power better than he does. Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu couldn't possibly win against Kurumi. Forget about saving Kotori and the others, they might even get themselves killed. Kurumi isn't the type to show mercy. "Ling Yin, where's Kurumi?" "She's in the zoo where you were dating yesterday." Chapter 472. Heavenly Palace City in a zoo. Today for some reason the people in the zoo had all disappeared. Even the animals had disappeared. The entire zoo was deathly silent. Kurumi is standing in an open space in the zoo. She's wearing a black princess dress. She's looking at the ground with an evil smile. Kotori, Toka, Shirori and Toka are being grabbed by a pale red arm. They can't move at all. "You've really put in a lot of effort, Tokisaki Kurumi." Kotori raised her head and looked at Kurumi. Her expression didn't change at all, as if she wasn't the one being held hostage. She didn't seem to care about her own safety. Her tone was filled with mockery. "Despicable. Kurumi. Toka is struggling, she's trying to get rid of the arm that's grabbing her. But the arm that's supposed to be weak is like a vice, it's holding her down. He can't get away." Next to the two, Yoshino shrunk his body in fear and hid behind Toka and Kotori. As for Shirori, she's still unconscious. Kurumi's smile is evil as she watched Toka's struggle. It's useless, you've lost your power, you can't get rid of me no matter what. It's better for you to lie down and save your energy. What's your goal? Kotori coldly looked at Kurumi and said, if I'm not mistaken it's Shido, right? Shido. Toka is shocked, she turned around and yelled at Kurumi, Kurumi, I won't allow you to hurt Shido. Era Toka-san, you're wrong. Kurumi took 2 steps forward and looked at Toka like a shy little girl. She said, why would I hurt Shido? You won't hurt Shido. Kotori curled her lips and sneered. She didn't say anything but the disbelief on her face is obvious. You won't understand my feelings for Shirdao. Kurumi touched Toka's cheek and ignored her resistance. She smiled and said, Shirdao is different. For me, Shirdao is the best existence. How can I hurt him? After all, Shirdao is destined to be with me forever. Together forever. Kotori abruptly raised her head. Your so-called forever together is to use the City of Time Eclipse to devour Shido, right? No. Kurumi closed her eyes and said, City of Time Eclipse is used to deal with food. Shido is so great, how can we treat him like food? After saying that, Kwang-sen's face turned ferocious as he laughed wildly. I brought you here because I want to eat Shirdao. After all, Shirdao is very disobedient. Eat. Toka clenched her teeth and shouted, you really want to hurt Shido? Well, you guys just stay here and watch. Kwang-san tapped her lips and smiled. My date with Shirdao will continue. I want you to witness the moment Shirdao and I become one. Kurumi. Toka roared. Kotori bit her lips, she looked anxious. Yono, who was hiding behind them, started struggling. She's a coward, but she didn't want to let someone hurt Wu Yen. She didn't want to let fear get the better of her. At this time, an illusory flash of light flashed in front of the open space, attracting the attention of everyone present. In that flash of light, 2 figures gradually appeared. It's Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu. One-sama. Looking at Shirori lying on the ground without any signs of movement, she anxiously shouted and rushed over. Yatsuki Chinyu also saw Kotori. Just as he wanted to go over, both of them were blocked by a figure at the same time. You're still as annoying as before. Kurumi looked at Shina and said indifferently. A murderous aura leaked out from her wine-red pupils. For Kurumi, if Shina still wanted to destroy the banquet like before, then she wouldn't die obediently again. It's you again. Zhenna looked at Kwang-san with hatred. He pulled out a mechanical sword from behind his back. With a slight sound, a blue and white light sword flew out from the sword. Era, so scary. Kurumi laughed, but the madness in her voice sent a chill down Yuechinyu's spine. Yuechinyu could clearly feel that every time he wanted to move towards Kotori and the others, a sense of dread would appear in his heart. Yatsuki Chinyu knew that Kurumi didn't ignore him at all. If he went to save the commander, he would suffer the most fatal blow. Therefore, Yatsuki Chinyu could only take 2 steps back, raised his sniper rifle and aimed at Kurumi. If he doesn't defeat Kurumi first, he won't be able to save the others. This point, not only Yatsuki Chinyu but also Shina. Seeing the two's actions, Kwang-san laughed. She laughed so hard that her delicate body trembled. Don't tell me you still think you can kill me like before? Shina didn't say anything, she tightened her grip on her sword. It's different now. When she was still a member of AST, she would never show mercy to Kurumi. But now she's a member of Ratatosker, she's not going to kill the elves like before, she's going to save them. However, Shina didn't want to be passive. If Kurumi wants to hurt Shirori, then she'll chop off her head like before. Anyway, with Kurumi's previous performance, she won't die. Let them go now. Shina shouted. Let them go. Kurumi looked at Kotori and the others, licked her lips and nodded. Sure, I just need Shido even though they look delicious. Hearing this, Shina didn't relax her vigilance. Instead, she became even more cautious. Sure enough, Kurumi quickly smiled and said, however, they are the most important guests of this banquet. How can they leave their seats before the banquet is over? Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu's face sank. That's not up to you. Kurumi's shoulders drooped as she once again laughed wildly. Really, every time you come to disturb me it's really rude. But that's good too. Kwang-san smiled. Then a scarlet blood light flashed in her wine-red eyes, causing her beautiful face to become extremely lustful. Before the real feast begins, let me have a prelude to the feast with you. After saying that, Kwang-san took a step back. Her body slightly swayed as she made a circle on the spot. Along with her movement, a weird purple-black chi flow suddenly rose from under her feet and wrapped around her body, causing her noble princess dress to flutter. At the same time, Kurumi closed her eyes. Dots of black light emerged from her body and quickly formed a black cocoon, wrapping Kurumi's body. A gloomy aura drifted out from the cocoon and reverberated in the open space, causing Kotori and the others' faces to turn slightly pale. Shina was fine after all, they've faced each other many times and she's strong enough. As for Yatsuki Chinyu behind Shina, he felt a bit heavy. After all, this is the first time Yatsuki Chinyu faced an elf. When Kurumi appeared in front of everyone again, her appearance has completely changed. She's wearing a red and black gothic dress, her long hair turned into 2 ponytails and a golden clock eye appeared. Coupled with her revealing dress, she's extremely charming. Divine power equipment? 3 times, Elohim. Chapter 474. When the blood dripped to the ground, Kotori, Toka and Yoshino finally reacted. They looked at Kurumi with a complicated expression. After all, she's an elf. At this moment, Kwang-san was floating in the air. Her chest was bleeding because of Yue Chinyu's spear. And in front of her body, there was a wound from her shoulder to her ribs. The originally blood-colored gothic dress was completely dyed red. Blood dripped down like water and soon the ground beneath Kwang 3 was dyed red as well. Even an elf wouldn't be able to move after receiving this kind of injury. However, Kurumi looked at the blood on her body with difficulty and grinned. The deep laughter sounded like the howling of evil spirits from hell, spreading over the entire open space. The strange laughter, which was low but extremely harsh, passed into the ears of Jana, who was still in a chopping posture, causing her to frown. Kwang-san stretched out her hand and touched her body. Scarlet blood stained her hand. She raised it in front of her eyes and looked at it. However, Kwang-san's expression didn't change at all. Instead, it was as if she had seen something amazing. She smiled excitedly. Good job, you guys. Kurumi ignored her bleeding wound and grinned at Shina and Yue Chinyu. She didn't care about it. I didn't expect that after I summoned Zafkiel, you could still beat me up like this. Not bad at all. Hearing Kurumi's words, Jin-na and Yue Chinyu's hearts tightened at the same time. They involuntarily clenched their weapons and vigilantly looked at Kurumi, who was fatally injured. They could feel that at this moment Kurumi seemed to be different. But Kurumi raised her head, her wine-red eyes flashed with a terrifying light. Then she raised her rifle and shot at Shina, sending him flying again. That's not enough to meddle in my and Shurdao's banquet. It's not enough. Jin-na didn't expect that Kwang-san could still move after suffering such an injury. In a hurry, he was caught off guard and fell in front of Yue Chinyu. When Jin-na stabilized his body and looked up at Kwang-san in the air, Kwang-san had already made a new move. Ignoring the bleeding wound in front of her, Kwang-san spread out her hands. Along with her movement, the illusory wheel on the huge clock behind her also sped up. Bullet of 4-inch on the huge clock, the number, 4, suddenly lit up. Black and red airflow rolled out and flowed into the pistol in Kurumi's hand. She didn't even think about it, she pressed the pistol against her temple and pulled the trigger. With a gunshot, the bleeding wound on Kurumi's body began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the bullet wound on her chest slowly disappeared with the gunshot. In the end, Kurumi's body, even her broken gothic dress, became intact. Seeing this, everyone on the ground couldn't help but bite their lips. Even Kotori and Yue Chinyu, who saw the battle between Wu Yen and Kurumi on the big screen in the command room of Fraxinus, had the same feeling. At this moment, everyone on the scene had the same feeling, that is, this is going to be tricky. Bullet of 1. The familiar sound echoed. Shinya and Yue Chinyu, who have already seen the bullet of 1, already had a change in expression. Shinya yelled and crouched down. The armor on his body emitted a green light. And then a green crystal barrier like a hornet's nest covered Shinya's body. Almost at the same time, a black bullet hit the green barrier, causing a ripple. Kurumi appeared next to Shinya and shot again, shattering the crystal barrier. The barrier was shattered, but Shinya didn't retreat. Instead, his lightsaber pierced through the sky and pierced towards Kurumi. Clang! A short pistol was pressed against the front end of the light sword, blocking the attack of the light sword. The crisp sound of weapons clashing rang out, and a huge force was transmitted from the weapons of both sides to each other, causing both sides to separate. Hee hee. Kurumi giggled, and the number 7 on the huge clock behind her lit up. Black and red airflow flowed into her rifle, and Kurumi raced it towards the retreating Xianxia. Bullet of 7 Zain. The black bullet hit Xianxia, making her heart tremble. She didn't forget the consequence of being hit by the bullet of 7 If not for Yueqinyu's help, she would have been defeated long ago. Therefore, after making sure that she couldn't dodge the bullet, she directly waved her lightsaber and chopped the bullet of 7. However, when the black bullet broke, another black bullet passed through the lightsaber in Xianxia's hand and hit her body. Xianxia didn't even have time to react. The transparent black barrier shrouded her and froze her movement. Oh no! Yueqinyu was shocked. He didn't care about anything else and aimed his sniper rifle at Kuang San. However, just as Yueqinyu was about to pull the trigger, a voice came from behind. It shocked him. Where are you looking? Evil laughter came from behind Yueqinyu, and in the next second a gunshot sounded, and Yueqinyu felt a sharp pain in his back. Yueqinyu knelt on the ground. There was a bloody hole on his back. Blood has stained his clothes. Yueqinyu turned his head. He saw Kurumi's familiar dark red figure and a clear mocking smile. Yueqinyu's forehead was covered in cold sweat, his hand on the ground, gasping for breath. He looked at Kurumi in front of him and Xianxia. He bitterly smiled. Lei Feng? At the same time, several gunshots sounded from Xianxia's side, and then Xianxia fell to the ground after Yueqinyu. Xianxia and Yueqinyu, who had the absolute advantage in the blink of an eye, collapsed to the ground. It's over. The two Kuangsans said in unison. They even raised their rifles and pointed them at the space between the two people's eyebrows. Xianxia. Yue. Tasheng's voice trembled. She desperately struggled. Damn it. Kotori cut off the red glow on her body and glanced at her arm. She then glanced at the sealing bracelet in her hand. If it was possible, Kotori would like to release her power. That way, Kotori is confident she can defeat Kurumi. But reality was cruel. Kotori in this world wasn't the original Kotori. She could retrieve her power whenever she wanted. Without the permission of the other pair of sealing bracelets, Kotori would never be able to retrieve her power for the rest of her life. The problem is, the pair of sealing bracelets doesn't exist, at least for now. If Tasheng and the others. Kotori looked at Tasheng and Yoshino. They are powerless, they can't break the seal either. It's reasonable Wu Yen hasn't arrived yet. He wouldn't dare to break the seal before he knows the situation of Tasheng and the others. If something went wrong, Kuang San might be scared after the seal was broken. Kuang San might even make the first move to gain the upper hand. Those glowing red arms weren't just capable of grabbing people. Are we just going to watch? Kotori's face is gloomy. She turned to look at Xianxia and Yueqinyu, who are struggling to get up. Kotori shouted, Oni-chan. Boom. The moment Kotori shouted, an orange beam fell from the sky. It hit Kurumi in front of Yueqinyu. Chapter 475. The orange light flashed in everyone's eyes. They couldn't help but squint their eyes. In the blink of an eye, the orange light beam has already reached Kurumi's back. The orange beam mercilessly pierced through Kuang San's body. It went through his back and came out of his chest, tearing a bloody hole in his body like it was made of rotten wood. Then in the sky, a red lotus fire pillar appeared out of thin air, following the path of the orange light beam. Under everyone's gaze, it fell on Kuang San, whose body had been pierced by the orange light beam. Kuang San, who was in front of Yueqinyu, did not have time to realize what kind of attack he had suffered. Under the red lotus fire pillar, he turned into ashes. Onying. Kotori looked up at the sky in surprise. She didn't recognize the orange light beam because she never saw it before, but the red lotus fire in her memory, only one person can use it. Hearing Kotori's cry, Toka, Yoshino, Yatsuki, and Shina also showed a surprised expression. Even Kurumi looked up with joy, looking at the direction of the light beam and the fire pillar falling down. In everyone's eyes, a figure was floating in the sky. He stood in the void and walked down step by step as if he was walking on flat ground. His full appearance was exposed to everyone's eyes. His black clothes fluttered with the wind. Under the gentle breeze, a whistling sound reverberated. His hand held a light sword that was filled with a scorching hot and ancient aura. He slowly walked down from the sky in this manner. His figure slowly revealed itself. A face that was as calm as an ancient well, but contained an unusual pressure, also appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Shido, brother Shido. Toka and Yoshino couldn't help but call out. Their voices were full of joy, as if the appearance of this person can solve all problems. Captain. Shina, Yatsuki and Shina also endured the pain all over their body, looked up at the figure in the sky. Have to say Wu Yan's appearance is really reassuring. Ah. Kurumi let out a soft cry, looked at Wu Yan and smiled sweetly. Shidao, you're finally here. In mid-air, Wu Yan's wine-red eyes swept across the ground. He didn't even look at Kurumi. Instead he looked at Kotori, Toka, Shirori and Toka. After making sure that the 4 women were safe, Wu Yan felt relieved. Then he looked at Shina and Yatsuki Chinyu. Wu Yan frowned when he saw the bullet holes on their bodies. He sighed. In the end, even though he got the news and used the teleportation device in Fraxinus, he was still a step too late. Wu Yan didn't know that Kotori and the others were kidnapped when Shina and Yuzuki Chinyu moved out of the room. When Wu Yan came out of the room, Shina and Yuzuki Chinyu had already arrived at the scene and confronted Kurumi. So, no matter how fast Wu Yan was, he couldn't catch up with the two. Fortunately, he arrived just before the two were about to be killed. Otherwise, Shina and Yuzuki Chinyu would have died. Finally, Wu Yan looked at Kurumi. Looking at the dark red figure in the gothic dress, Wu Yan's wine-red eyes inevitably flashed red. A monstrous pressure fell from the sky and shrouded the whole place. Kurumi. Wu Yan looked at Kurumi and said without any fluctuation in his tone. This time you went too far. Hearing Wu Yan's tone as if he's talking to a stranger, Kurumi shuddered. She thought that Wu Yan would roar in anger and attack without saying anything, but she didn't expect Wu Yan to be so calm. This made Kurumi feel uneasy. But this trace of uneasiness was quickly suppressed by the joy in Kurumi's heart. She smiled at Wu Yan and said, Shido, this can't be helped. Shido, you've always rejected me, so I can only invite these guests here. I've told you many times. Kurumi tilted her head and smiled evilly. You can't reject me. Is that so? Wu Yan glanced at Kurumi. Then he looked at Shina, Kotori and the others who are not far away from him. Let them go. Kurumi frowned. Wu Yan's indifferent tone made her very uncomfortable. The smile on her face disappeared and she glanced at Shina on the ground. Well, since Shido is here, the prelude to the feast is over. They're useless now. After saying that, a few pale red arms suddenly appeared on the ground, grabbed Shina's body, tied him up and pulled him towards Kotori and laid him down on the ground with them. Your next task is to witness me and Shido fusing as one. Kurumi couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps she thought of the moment when she fused with Wu Yan. Wu Yan's expression turned cold. He shot Kurumi an electric glare. What? You want to use them to threaten me? No. Kurumi tapped her chin with the pistol in her hand and said with a smile, This is a feast for me and Shido. How can we let other people interfere in it? Then why don't you let them go? Wu Yan said coldly. Of course, it's to prevent you from rejecting me again. Kurumi closed her eyes and opened her hands. Only if there are a few witnesses, Shido won't reject me. Otherwise, if you want to leave, I can't do anything about it. Wu Yan looked at Kurumi coldly, then he looked at Toka and Yoshino. His eyes flickered and he moved his right hand. Shido, you're really ruthless. We agreed that this feast can only have us. Kurumi giggled. When she said that, the arms that bound Toka and Yoshino tightened. Toka and Yoshino screamed in pain, which made Wu Yan stop. I know about Shido's matter, Toka's matter. Kurumi's evil laughter rang out. It's very easy for those arms to penetrate the bodies of elves who aren't wearing spiritual equipment. Once the seal on student Toka and that little elf is broken, the spiritual waves will spread out. Those arms won't show any mercy, they won't show any mercy. Wu Yan's face darkened. He gave up on the idea of releasing Toka and Yoshino. He looked at Kurumi. You've gone too far. Wu Yan said the same thing again, but this time Wu Yan wasn't as calm as before. His tone was calm, but everyone can hear the anger in it. Lingyin, teleport you back. Following Wu Yan's words, Yatsuki Chinyu disappeared from where he stood and teleported back to Fraxinus. He's the only one who isn't being held hostage and can safely teleport back to Fraxinus. Kurumi. Wu Yan walked towards Kurumi. Originally, I've always been thinking about what I should do in order for you to be saved and happy like Zhou Xian and see you nigh. Kurumi's face darkened. She stared at Wu Yan with her red and gold eyes. She wanted to say something, but she was interrupted by Wu Yan. But now, I completely understand it. Wu Yan's deep voice reverberated in the air and it soared into the sky. To you, words have completely lost their effect. Actions can't move your heart that is riddled with holes. Only pain can wake you up. So, Kurumi, this time I must wake you up. Hee hee. Hee hee. Ah, Kurumi chuckled. Her voice got louder and louder until she started laughing. Above her left eye, the eye of the clock started spinning. The battle was about to start. Chapter 476. Sherdao. 10 Fragrances looked at the two people who were standing opposite each other not far away. Her voice was full of worry. One person, no problem? No problem. No problem. The one who answered Toka was actually the most timid and shy Yoshino. At this moment there was no fear on Yoshino's face. There was only determination and trust. Brother Shido, you will win. Hearing Yoshino's trust in Wu Yan, Kotori couldn't help but smile. Toka paused for a moment then smiled. Ah yes, if it's Sherdao there will be no problem. Kotori looked up at Wu Yan and whispered, Oni-chan, you are my cute Oni-chan, you can't lose. His wine-red eyes stared straight at Kwang-san. After a slight squint, his eyes began to spin. The wine-red color in his eyes faded away and was replaced by a noble golden color. When Wu Yan's eyes turned golden, his frail body emitted an oppressive aura that enveloped Kurumi. This is the aura of a true ancestor. Even Kurumi couldn't help but feel the pressure weighing down on her. However, this trace of heaviness didn't make Kwang-san timid. Instead, a fanatical expression appeared on her face. Her red and gold eyes were filled with intoxication, telling everyone that Kwang-san's heart was fluctuating at this moment. It's as fascinating as always. This power is like blood being brewed from a wine jar. Kwang-san waved his hands like a madman. The two spears in his hands danced in the air and pointed at the huge clock behind him. So exciting. So exciting. Zafkiel, as soon as he finished speaking, the illusory wheel on the edge of the huge clock rotated. The golden clock in Kwang-san's left eye also rotated. The word 7 on the Zafkiel lit up. Black and red airflow flowed out and rolled into the short pistol's muzzle. As soon as the stream of air flowed into the pistol, Wu Yan's golden eyes flashed coldly. The sword in his hand trembled, and with a bang, a red lotus flame danced on the blade and wrapped around Wu Yan's body. Flame. Not far away, Shina, who is lying beside Shirori, gasped when she saw the flames on Wu Yan's body. I've never heard of a weapon that can use flames. Captain's ability to control flames. Is he an Efreet? But an Efreet is a female. Kotori curled her lips and looked at Wu Yan, who was wrapped in flames. Her eyes were a bit blurred. She has to say Wu Yan really does look like an Efreet at this moment, a version of herself who has released her power. Wu Yan stomped on the ground, and the red lotus flame around his feet burned a black mark on the ground. He leaped up and turned around in the air and fiercely waved his sword at Kurumi. Kwang-san had just finished reloading her bullet of 7. But before she could fire it, a wave of heat hit her face, causing her to pause her movement. At this time, the red lotus fire had already filled her entire field of vision. Kwang-san's red and gold eyes flashed as he decisively gave up on the bullet of 7. Instead, he took a step forward. Suddenly, countless pale red arms reached out from under Kwang-san's feet and formed a wall of arms in front of Kwang-san. The red lotus flame smashed against the wall of hands. The hand wall trembled slightly before it was incinerated into nothingness. However, the red lotus flame was also blocked. When the hand wall and the red lotus flame disappeared at the same time, Kurong 3 raised his pistol and shot out the bullet of 7 with a sinister grin. However, not long after the bullet of 7 shot out, a blue-white lightning bolt flew from afar and collided with the bullet of 7 head-on. The lightning and the bullet of 7 collided, and the bullet of 7 instantly turned into a transparent black light shield, covering the lightning and causing it to stop in mid-air. Kurumi was startled. When she reacted, she quickly raised her head and looked forward. At this moment, the sound of air breaking rang out, and a black figure wrapped in red lotus flame appeared in front of Kurumi. The cold golden eyes met Kurumi's eyes and Kurumi's face trembled. However, the Nin Temple Shana was already slashing towards Kurumi. The scorching flames landed on Kwang-san's clothes first, and a wisp of smoke appeared on the spiritual equipment. Kwang-san actually used the rifle in her hand as a weapon when she saw the flaming blade about to reach her. She slammed it on the Nin Temple Shana, and blocked it. Kurumi's scarlet right eye looked at Wu Yen, who was holding the Nin Temple Shana. The corner of her mouth rose and she raised her pistol and pointed it at Wu Yan's forehead. Bang! The sound of the pistol rang out and everyone's heart tightened. However, they immediately let out a sigh of relief. The black bullet didn't enter Wu Yan's forehead, but instead shot towards the sky. This was because a black iron sand sword blocked the bullet and pushed it away. Chaotic return to sky dance, Wu Yan shouted in a low voice. The Nin Temple Shana emitted a fiery red halo, and then Wu Yan fiercely swung it down. Boom! The red blade blasted away the rifle and smashed into Kurumi's body. She groaned and a crazed expression appeared on her face. She forcefully pulled back the rifle and smashed it into Wu Yan's chest. Bang! Wu Yan's chest also felt heavy. He gritted his teeth and kicked at Kurumi. Kurumi seemed to have the same idea. She kicked out and both of them were kicked away. Bullet of 1 Aleph. Kurumi clenched her teeth as she flew backward. She forcefully lifted her body and shouted. A huge clock appeared and a black-red stream of energy swirled around the number 1. It flowed into the muzzle of the gun and was shot by Kurumi. Bullet of 7 Yin. This time it's the 7 characters' turn to release black and red energy. This time, it's 2 streams of energy that flowed into the guns in Kurumi's left and right hands. Kurumi disappeared from her spot and reappeared next to Wu Yen, who is still flying backwards. However, as soon as Kurumi appeared beside Wu Yen, a fierce red lotus flame ignited on Wu Yan's body. It suddenly expanded and like a flaming whip, it hit Kurumi, causing her to spit out a mouthful of blood. Beep beep beep. At the center of the red lotus flame, a crazy sound reverberated. A blue and white light flashed from the red lotus flame, attracting Kurumi's attention. She raised her head and an orange light beam was already in front of her. Bang! Just as the orange light beam was about to hit Kurumi, she fired the bullet of 7 Yin from her handgun. The orange light beam stopped in midair. Then Kurumi swept her gaze towards the center of the red lotus flame and fired the bullet of 7 Yin from her rifle. The red lotus flame was covered by a transparent black shield. The flames that were originally burning slowly inside were all frozen like a painting. At the edge of the transparent black shield, Wu Yen brushed past the shield and flashed out of the flames, dodging the attack of the bullet of 7 Yin. Suddenly, a pale red arm shot out from the ground in front of Wu Yen. The long arm swung towards Wu Yen from the side and sent Wu Yen flying. At this time, only 10 seconds had passed since the start of the battle. In 10 seconds, the battle between the two sides was fierce. Chapter 477. In the open space, the bullet of 7 that stopped the super railgun and the red lotus flame gradually lost its effect. The transparent black shield slowly dispersed, releasing the super railgun and the red lotus flame. As the bullet of 7 lost its effect, the super railgun no longer stopped and shot into the distance. Of course, this round of super railgun was no longer effective. The red lotus flame seemed to have lost its support. Layers of fire rippled on the ground and then slowly weakened until it completely disappeared. Only 1 red and 1 black figure were left standing in the middle, awkwardly looking at each other. Kotori, Toka, and Yoshino couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then they looked at Kurumi, who was also in a sorry state but unharmed state, and frowned. She's really hard to deal with, that Tokasaki Kurumi. Kotori moved her body and felt that the restraints didn't loosen at all. She sighed. She thought that after such a fierce battle Kurumi would be injured and the restraints would weaken a bit. In fact, although Kurumi was injured, the arms that bound Kotori and the others were equivalent to Kurumi's clones. As long as the golden clock in Kurumi's left eye didn't run out of time, these arms would exist forever. Bullet of 4, Dalet. Kwang Sen's voice resounded once more. From the huge clock behind her, black and red airflow rolled out, flowing into the pistol in Kwang Sen's hand. Then Kwang Sen aimed at her temple and fired a shot. The wound she had just received was completely healed. On the other side, although Wu Yan doesn't have the ability to control time like Kurumi's angel, his recovery ability as a true ancestor isn't any weaker than Kurumi. Before Kurumi's injuries were healed, Wu Yan's injuries were also healed. The two returned to their peak state. If it weren't for the cracks and charred marks on the ground caused by the battle and the golden clock in Kwang Sen's left eye hadn't rotated a lot, the fierce battle just now might have been regarded as an illusion. Kurumi sighed softly and looked at Wu Yan. Her gaze swept over Wu Yan's body. After confirming that Wu Yan has returned to his peak state like her, Kurumi secretly curled her lips. Shido, is this what you meant when you said you wanted to wake me up? Kurumi's evil laughter was ear-piercing. If this is all you've got, it's still not enough. Just shut your mouth and watch. Wu Yan said indifferently. In his golden eye, Kurumi's thin figure was imprinted in his eyes, causing ripples to appear. With the ability of Zafkiel, Kurumi could recover from her injuries and increase her speed. She also had the ability to freeze her opponent's time and create countless time clones. There was no way she could be defeated. Unless all the time stored in Kurumi's left eye was used up, she would still be immortal. There was no way this battle would end. There are only two ways to defeat Kurumi. The first is to have the absolute strength to suppress Kurumi. Even if he can't defeat her, he can still capture her alive. The second method is to use a powerful ultimate move to destroy Zafkiel, just like how Kotori fought Kurumi in the original work. There's no doubt that the first way won't work. With Wu Yan's current strength, it's already his limit to fight Kurumi to this extent. After all, Kurumi is stronger than Wu Yan in terms of pure strength. Therefore, to defeat Kurumi there's only one way. Using a powerful ultimate move to destroy the Zafkiel. Thinking about this, Wu Yan started struggling. He has a lot of tricks up his sleeves, but the only one strong enough to take down Zafkiel is Lightning Fall. However, Lightning Fall is too slow to cast. Against a fairy who can control time, it's not going to work. Of course, it's not that Wu Yan has no other way. If his move doesn't work, he still has his armament. The meteor shower is much stronger than before. Destroying Zafkiel won't be a problem. Meteor shower is strong, but it's too strong. Wu Yan is afraid that when Zafkiel is destroyed, Kurumi will get caught up in the shockwaves and die without leaving a trace behind. Therefore, neither of the two ways will work. Wu Yan's heart was racing. The more he thought about it, the more helpless he felt. Kurumi's strength isn't the strongest among the fairies, but she's definitely the strongest when it comes to toughness and survivability. Therefore, Wu Yan didn't know what to do. Wu Yan's golden eyes narrowed slightly. He exhaled lightly and his expression became serious. The only thing he can do now is to use all of his abilities and the infinite martial arts to come up with a strange move. Wu Yan slowly separated his feet and looked at Kurumi from afar. He reached out a hand and snapped his fingers. The next moment, countless crimson spatial ripples reverberated. However, they didn't reverberate behind Wu Yan. Instead, they reverberated around Kurumi. The crimson spatial ripples directly surrounded Kurumi. Her pupils shrank. At the same time, iron sand swords shot out from the spatial ripples and pierced through the sky towards Kurumi. Aleph. The iron sand swords shot towards Kurumi from all directions. She quickly used the Aleph and escaped with an unparalleled speed. She dodged the iron sand swords and the iron sand swords violently hit the place where she was standing, turning that area into powder. Not far away, Kwang Sen's figure appeared. Seeing the place where he stood a moment ago turn into ruins, Kwang Sen's expression couldn't help but change. But shortly after, a large number of scarlet spatial ripples flashed once again. This time they didn't surround Kwang Sen. Instead, they fluctuated on the ground. Countless iron sand swords flew out from the ground and soared into the sky. Ah! The iron sand sword cut through Kwang Sen's body, leaving countless wounds on her soft white skin. This was the result of Kuang San dodging in time. If she didn't do anything, she would have been pierced by the iron sand sword. Kurumi endured the pain in her body and raised her pistols. She was about to use the dalet to heal her injuries when a crimson light flashed in her line of sight. Kurumi's expression changed drastically. The crimson spatial ripples fluctuated behind Wu Yan. But what came out of the spatial ripples weren't iron sand swords, but the most basic iron sand. The iron sand surged in the spatial ripples and formed black cannon muzzles that stretched out from the spatial ripples. Standing in front of the countless iron sand cannon muzzles, Wu Yan's body suddenly flashed with a strong electric light. Then Wu Yan shouted and used the electromancer's ability to channel all the electric current into the iron sand cannon muzzles that stretched out from the Gate of Babylon. As the electric current flowed into the iron sand cannon muzzles, the iron sand cannon muzzles flashed with a strange blue and white light that became stronger and stronger. Soon, all of the iron sand cannon muzzles lit up with blue and white light. Extreme impact. Wu Yan stretched out his hands and huge blue and white light beams shot out from the iron sand cannon muzzles. With an unimaginable speed, they shot towards the shocked Kurumi. Boom! The explosion resounded through the world. Chapter 478. Under the bombardment of the gigantic beam of light that blotted out the sky and earth, the entire open space was reduced to dust. The surrounding rocky ground was also reduced to rubble, carried away by the huge impact, flying into the distance. Between heaven and earth, blue and white had already become the only colors. The earth-shattering boom resounded through Tianfei, and even the white clouds in the sky were blown away. Kotori, Toka, Yoshino, and Shina, who were closest to the beam, were already shedding tears due to the dazzling blue-white light. The four girls quickly closed their eyes. The shockwaves from the beam also swept over, causing them to cry out in shock. If it weren't for those pale red glowing arms restraining them with their weak weight, they would have been blown away long ago. However, the light was too dazzling and they could close their eyes. Their weight was lighter and their pale arms could be fixed. However, when the earth-shattering sound rang out, the four girls had no hands to cover their ears. Immediately, under the attack of the loud sound, the four girls' ears were bombarded with buzzing sounds, and even their heads were a little dizzy. After an unknown amount of time, the explosion slowly faded away. The blue and white light also dimmed. The shockwave slowly weakened. After a while, everything returned to silence. Kotori was the first to recover. She groaned in pain and shook her dizzy head. Then she opened her eyes and looked ahead. The empty space had disappeared. The ground was filled with cracks and the rock plate was exposed to the air. It looked like a barren land that had lost its water source. No one would have thought that this place would be empty before this. At the center of the light beam, there was only a deep pit that Kotori could not see in its entirety. "Did we win?" Kotori murmured. Then she thought of something and her expression changed. She quickly looked to the side. When a familiar figure appeared in her sight, Kotori sighed in relief. So powerful. Toka, Shiatomo, and Jin Na finally recovered from the impact. Seeing the cracks and pitch-black pits all over the ground, the three women were dumbfounded. They were stunned on the spot. On the other side of the crater, Wu Yan stood there. Sparks of electricity crackled around his body as he panted heavily. Behind him, the space rippled with crimson ripples. Just like Wu Yan, the black iron sand cannons were flashing with electricity. Inside the cannons, blue and white light flashed. Wu Yan was both happy and tired when he saw the effect of extreme impact. Of course, he's happy because of the power of the move he created on the spot. But it's normal for him to be tired. He used Electromancer, Gate of Babylon, and Infinite Arms refinement. How could he not be tired? After taking a deep breath to calm his chest, Wu Yan straightened his body. He looked at the dusty pit and wondered how Kurumi is doing. However, this was a good opportunity for him to do so. Wu Yan turned to look at Kotori and the others. He jumped up and landed in front of Kotori, Toka, Yoshino, and Shina. Shido. She wanted to get up, but she couldn't move at all. She could only hang her head down dejectedly. It wasn't just 10 fragrances. Even Sima and Jin couldn't move. Wu Yan and Kotori's expression changed. No matter how independent these arms are, if the owner is defeated, they won't disappear but they won't be completely weakened. This only proves that Kurumi is fine. Bang! Almost as soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Wu Yan heard the sound of something breaking through the air. Wu Yan's expression turned ugly. He didn't need to guess to know that Kurumi hasn't been defeated yet. Wu Yan turned around and saw a black bullet. Wu Yan wanted to dodge but he stopped and took the hit. The bullet broke through Wu Yan's body and entered Wu Yan's shoulder. Blood flowed out of the wound. Wu Yan saw blood for the first time in this battle. Shido. Kotori was shocked. She saw the blood flowing out of Wu Yan's shoulder. Her eyes flashed with pain. She knew that Wu Yan could have dodged the bullet but she was behind him. If he dodged she would have been the one to take the bullet. That's why Wu Yan took the hit. I'm fine. Wu Yan answered without turning his head. He rubbed the wound on his shoulder and the wound on his shoulder disappeared. All that was left was the blood staining his clothes, a clear indication that he was injured here before. He raised his head and looked at the deep pit. Kuang San was slowly walking out of it with a giant clock behind her. She was holding a spear with both hands. Her red and gold eyes were shining with a strange light. As expected of Shido, the man I like. Kurumi's face was calm. She walked in front of Wu Yan and coldly said, "If I didn't summon all my avatars to block the attack, I wouldn't even be able to lift my gun." Wu Yan turned around when he heard Kurumi. "That means that hit was enough to defeat you, right? Do you have the confidence to take another hit from me? This time I don't have any avatars to block the attack for you." Shido, do you think using the same trick against me would work?" Kurumi laughed in a creepy manner. Wu Yan couldn't help but feel helpless against her. Indeed, the reason why he was able to force Kuang San to that point was mainly due to his surprise attack. After all, Kuang San didn't understand his ability, but he understood Kuang San's ability very well. Therefore he was able to force Kuang San, who was stronger than him, into a disadvantageous position. But now that his attack was seen through, Kurumi probably knew his ability. It would be difficult for him to gain the upper hand in the next battle. Oh, by the way, Kurumi raised her pistols and she told Wu Yan, "I summoned all my clones to block the attack for me. However, there is still one more clones left." Wu Yan's pupils shook. His body tensed up. Bullet of 7 Zayin. At this time a series of gunshots rang above his head, accompanied by the sound of bullets flying through the air. These were all Bullet of 7 Zayin. A large number of black bullets fell from the sky towards Wu Yan. Wu Yan waved his hand and a crimson spatial ripple reverberated above his head. Faintly, some black light could be seen surging inside. When Wu Yan wanted to use the iron sand to form a shield, the Bullet of 7 Zayin arrived first. Before the iron sand could form, the black bullets directly hit the crimson spatial ripple and disappeared. Seeing this, Kurumi and Wu Yan were stunned at the same time. Then Wu Yan became excited. He did not expect that the Gate of Babylon could be used like this. Suddenly, in the crimson spatial ripple shot by the Bullet of 7 Zayin, a strange light began to flicker, attracting Wu Yan's attention. "What's going on?" Wu Yan looked at the crimson spatial ripple with a strange luster. For a moment he did not know what to do. Up until now he had never seen the Gate of Babylon react like this. Under Wu Yan's gaze, the strange luster fluctuated above the crimson spatial ripple. Along with the crimson spatial ripple, the luster directly passed through the crimson spatial ripple and swayed in the void. A dazzling light suddenly flashed. Chapter 479. The crimson spatial ripples of the Gate of Babylon flashed with a dazzling light. The Gate of Babylon in the void was like a glowing lake with ripples, illuminating the entire space as if it was daytime. Everyone involuntarily closed their eyes. Wu Yan, who was closest to the Gate of Babylon, raised his arm in front of himself. The sudden change made him forget how to react for a moment. When he realized that there might be danger and wanted to turn back to protect Kotori and the others, a roar sounded in his mind, making his mind go blank. The world suddenly became quiet. The crimson spatial ripples of the Gate of Babylon shook violently. A strange aura shrouded the entire space. White light shone in every corner, completely covering the space in a single color. The real situation could no longer be seen clearly. Wu Yan felt like he stepped into a spacequake when he first arrived in this world. His body was spinning back and forth in the void, like a green willow blown by a gust of wind. He couldn't control his body at all, swaying in the dizziness. After a long time, the dizziness slowly subsided and his body was no longer swaying. Wu Yan regained control of himself and opened his eyes. However, as soon as he opened his eyes, the scene in front of him shocked Wu Yan. What's going on? At this time, Wu Yan was floating in the air, his body slightly tilted, looking down at the ground below. On the ground there was a familiar small city, Heavenly Palace City. However, on the ground, the tranquil and serene scenery of Heavenly Palace City had long disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a sea of fiery red. All the buildings were burning and burning in this sea of fire. Heavenly Palace City is on fire? Wu Yan stared blankly at the sea of fire below. Everything in his field of vision was fiery red. People kept running out of the buildings and then fled to the side of the street. For a time, the sky above Heavenly Palace City was full of screams and cries. Could it be caused by the Gate of Babylon? Wu Yan's face was slightly pale. If the fire in Heavenly Palace City was caused by the Gate of Babylon, then his sin was really big. Where's Kurumi? Kotori? Where did everyone go? At this moment, Wu Yan is like a lost child. His face is filled with confusion and panic. This sudden turn of events really left Wu Yan at a loss of what to do. Wu. Suddenly, a familiar yet strange voice came into Wu Yan's ears. It woke up the absent-minded Wu Yan, who was in midair and didn't know what to do. Although the voice was very low, Wu Yan could hear it very clearly. The crying voice made Wu Yan quickly come back to his senses. This voice is... Wu Yan looked at the direction of the crying voice. He seemed to have heard this voice before, but there were some differences. Wu Yan frowned. Let's go and see. His golden pupils flashed. Wu Yan moved and quickly flew in the direction of the crying voice. As the crying voice became clearer and clearer, the fire below also became bigger and bigger. Looking at the buildings struggling in the sea of fire, Wu Yan, who saw the scene below from the sky, flashed a light in his mind. Tiangong City in the sea of fire, he felt that he had seen it somewhere before. His figure was like an arrow leaving the bow, cutting through the sky and rushing in the direction of the sound. The sound was getting closer and closer. At a certain moment, Wu Yan's figure suddenly stopped. Looking down, his golden pupils shrank to the size of a needle tip. A look of disbelief appeared on his face. On the ground, inside a building, the flames burned fiercely on all sides of the building, turning everything into ashes. Some fixed objects couldn't withstand the burning of the fire and collapsed to the ground. In the center of the flames, a small figure sat in it, covering her face and crying. The figure was wearing a feather-like kimono. It was mostly white with red and light pink silk was gently embellished on the feather-like kimono. It was like a phoenix spreading its wings. A white ribbon passed through both sides of the feather-like kimono. It seemed to have lost its weight and was suspended there, looking very light and ethereal. Her fiery red hair cascaded down her back. She had a pair of ivory and bullhorns ornaments hanging on her head. Tied to the ornaments were two white ribbons that Wu Yan is very familiar with. Kotori. Wu Yan looked at the figure below in a daze. In an instant he recognized the other party's identity. It's definitely Kotori. And it's Kotori who has turned into an elf. However, the Kotori who was crying in the sea of fire, not only has she turned into an elf, her figure has also shrunk a lot. How? His brain seemed to have crashed. Wu Yan couldn't react at all. He really didn't expect that after a burst of light and a rotation of the sky and earth, everything would change so much. Tiangong City became a sea of fire, Kotori entered the elf state, and her figure shrunk a lot. It's like she's rejuvenated. She's rejuvenated. When this term flashed through his mind, the idea that flashed through his mind once more. Wu Yan, who was at a loss for what to do, his expression gradually turned serious. In the sea of fire in Tiangong City, the elf Kotori is crying in the center of the fire. Isn't this the scene in the original work 5 years ago, when Kotori turned into an elf and her power went out of control, causing the fire in Tiangong City? Did I travel back in time to 5 years ago when Kotori became an elf? Recalling the strange phenomenon that appeared in the Gate of Babylon, the strange experience he had before, and the fact that he had seen it before in the original work, Wu Yan became more and more certain of his guess. Is it because of the collision between my Gate of Babylon and Kurumi's Bullet of 7? That's the truth. As we all know, Kurumi's angel has the ability to control time, while the Gate of Babylon is a space-type item. Not long ago, Kurumi used Bullet of 7 in an attempt to freeze Wu Yan's time and defeat him. At that time, Wu Yan couldn't evade the attack because Kotori and the others were behind him. He had no choice but to use Gate of Babylon to defend himself with the iron sand. However, Kwang 3's attack was a surprise attack. The Gate of Babylon was activated in a hurry, and before the iron sand could form, it was attacked by the Bullet of 7. When the Bullet of 7 collided with the space-type Gate of Babylon, the space-type Gate of Babylon collided with the space-type Gate of Babylon. The friction between the space-type Gate of Babylon and the space-type Gate of Babylon caused the strange phenomenon that appeared. Originally, the collision between the Bullet of 7 and the Gate of Babylon would only cause a small phenomenon due to the nature of the space-type Gate of Babylon. However, Wu Yan's Gate of Babylon also had the space-type Gate of Babylon. When the space-type Gate of Babylon collided with the space-type Gate of Babylon, the strange ripple swept across the Gate of Babylon and touched the space-type Gate of Babylon. The space-type Gate of Babylon fluctuated, causing the strange phenomenon to materialize. Time and space power materialized and the space-time force rushed out of the Gate of Babylon and hit Wu Yan, sending him back to 5 years ago. Chapter 480. It had to be said that this was a coincidence that would never happen a second time. The phenomenon caused by the collision of time and space might have involved other factors. There might also be other reasons for the materialization of the power of spacetime. Even if it was a fixed reaction, it would not be able to teleport people to such a suitable time. Floating in the air, Wu Yan looked down at the crying Kotori, his heart aching a little. Kotori was just an ordinary little girl before this. It's already a miracle that she wasn't scared out of her wits. Kotori should be terrified right now. Sighing, Wu Yan looked down at Kotori with his golden eyes. He pondered for a moment, reached out a finger and pulled the system projection out of thin air. Wu Yan tapped on it again and again. Soon a pair of white and red bracelets appeared in the air. Wu Yan held the bracelets in front of him. They're the sealing bracelets. So this is how it all started. Wu Yan shook his head and he laughed. Now he finally understood the reason behind everything. No wonder Kotori was wearing the sealing bracelets when they met for the first time. No wonder Kotori would recognize the bracelets and invite him to join Ratatosker. She even acknowledged him as her older brother. It's not the first time they've met. If it wasn't for this one in a billion coincidence, his experience in this world would have been completely different. He equipped the white sealing bracelet on his hand. Now he has 2 sealing bracelets on each of his hands. He hovered in the air for a bit before he turned around and he flew down towards Kotori. He passed through the sea of flames and he blew the flames away with a wave of his hand. He landed in front of Kotori. Kotori's crying figure entered Wu Yan's eyes. Wu Yan crouched down and he reached out to touch Kotori's head. "Hey good girl, don't cry." A warm touch came from the top of Kotori's head. An unusually soft voice entered Kotori's ears. Kotori's head, which was buried in her hands, trembled. She quickly raised her head and saw a stranger who she had never seen before. However, this stranger was looking at her with a doting expression and stroking her little head with a smile. Kotori stared blankly at the stranger in front of her. His gentle face was illuminated by the firelight, making it impossible for Kotori to see his face clearly. She could only vaguely feel his warm gaze on her. After a while, Kotori reacted and said to Wu Yan with a sobbing voice, It's dangerous here, you have to leave." Wu Yan chuckled and he rubbed Kotori's head. "What will you do if I leave?" "Me." Xiao Kotori was stunned. Then tears flowed out of her eyes again. Even she didn't know what to do. Everything happened too suddenly. It was too shocking. Xiao Kotori was at a loss about her future. Wu Yan sighed and wiped away her tears. He said softly, "You're still here, how can I leave?" Kotori's heart started pounding when she heard those words. She started tearing up again. She threw herself into Wu Yan's arms and started bawling her eyes out. Wu Yan rubbed her hair and patted her back. It's okay, don't cry, it's okay, Wu. Not only did Kotori not stop crying, she cried even harder. At this time she was less than 10 years old. Originally she just wanted to be a little stronger. She just wanted to become the little sister that her elder sister liked. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen? The moment that voice appeared, Kotori changed everything. Not only did her body change, even her existence changed. All of this happened to a girl less than 10 years old. It's easy to imagine how scared she was. Under such circumstances, Wu Yan's gentleness touched her heart all the time. She just wanted to cry out loud in this man's arms and express her feelings. In the sea of fire, the two embraced each other as if they didn't see anything. The flames automatically avoided that area and burned to other places, leaving them with peace. After a long time, Kotori's crying weakened. Her body was still sobbing and her face was full of tear stains, making people feel sorry for her. When she stopped crying, Wu Yan let her leave his arms and took out the sealing bracelet. Kotori put it on. Kotori blinked her red and swollen eyes and took the sealing bracelet. She looked confused as if she didn't know what it was used for. Seeing this, Wu Yan told her about the effects and restrictions of the sealing bracelet. Then he said, "So, put it on and you'll be an ordinary person again." "Really?" Kotori cried out in surprise. She looked at the sealing bracelet in her hand and hugged it like it was a treasure. At this time, a powerful suction force fell from the sky and smashed onto Wu Yan. His body trembled violently and he almost lost his balance. When he reacted, Wu Yan quickly stabilized his body, but the suction force sucked him up and pulled him up. "What's going on?" Wu Yan said in shock as he resisted the suction force with great difficulty. This attracted Kotori's attention. She suddenly felt uneasy and grabbed Wu Yan's clothes tightly. "What's wrong?" Wu Yan gritted his teeth and resisted the suction force. He felt his body being pulled up bit by bit. Wu Yan seemed to understand something and said to Kotori, "Kotori, remember to put on the sealing bracelet." "I'm leaving." "What?" Kotori was shocked and quickly hugged Wu Yan. She cried, don't go, Kotori's scared. "I don't want to be alone." "Woo, Kotori." Wu Yan stabilized himself and said, "Don't be afraid, you'll be fine." "Where are you going? Can you take Kotori with you?" "Kotori doesn't want to stay here. So scary." Kotori cried and begged. Wu Yan's heart almost broke from crying. "Kotori, you have to be strong." Wu Yan panted and looked at Kotori. "I can't take you with me, but we'll meet again." Little Kotori stared blankly at the face that could not be seen clearly under the illumination of the fire. She tightened her grip on the sealing bracelet and muttered, "See you again." "Yes. See you again." Wu Yan rubbed Kotori's head and he grinned. "When the time comes, I'll take you wherever you want to go, Kotori." "Really?" Kotori grabbed Wu Yan's clothes and whispered. "Yes, of course." Wu Yan chuckled. "That's why, Kotori, you have to be strong. Don't cry. It'll be over soon. Be strong." Kotori held the sealing bracelet tightly and looked up. She said with determination, "Yes. Kotori will be strong." Wu Yan chuckled. Unable to resist the suction force any longer, he let go of Kotori and got pulled into the sky. "Wait, who are you?" Wu Yan opened his mouth when he heard Kotori's shout. Before he could say anything, his body turned into specks of light and he vanished into thin air. Chapter 481. In the open space, the white light that illuminated the entire area seemed to have completed a certain task. It slowly dimmed down and released the area that it had covered. It flowed away like a tide. It wasn't until the white light completely disappeared that the situation in the open space was exposed to the sunlight again. Inside, Kotori, Toka, Shirori, and Shirori were still lying on the ground, being grabbed by the pale red hand. Kurumi was holding her spear in front of her, her eyes were tightly closed. Everything was exactly the same as before the white light covered the open space. Only Wu Yan is half kneeling on the ground, gasping for breath. His golden eyes are a bit absent-minded, his face is a bit pale, it seems like he experienced something. "I'm back." Taking a deep breath, Wu Yan calmed his heaving chest and looked around. The familiar scenery appeared again, the familiar figures appeared again. Everything is the same as before, as if nothing happened. Wu Yan touched his wrist. He felt a sealing bracelet on it. Wu Yan sighed in relief. He confirmed that what he experienced wasn't an illusion. Shido, why didn't you attack just now? Kurumi put down her hand and smiled at Wu Yan. Don't tell me Shido was blinded by his own technique? It's not like you at all. Wu Yan looked at Kurumi. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Kurumi thought that the white light was his own technique. Standing up from the ground, Wu Yan looked at Kurumi with his golden eyes. Well, you can say that. Kurumi paused. She looked at Wu Yan's smiling face and frowned. This is the first time Wu Yan smiled since he appeared. It seems like Shido is in a good mood. He was angry because I invited those people to the feast, right? Kurumi's mouth curved into an evil smile. Is Shido no longer angry at me? Well, you can say that. The same words and the same expression made the smile on Kurumi's face slowly disappear. She frowned, but then she relaxed again. Her intuition told her that something was wrong. Wu Yan glanced at Kurumi with a smile. Then he looked back at Kotori, who is lying on the ground and the sealing bracelet in her hand. His eyes were full of joy and tenderness. See, we meet again, Kotori. No one heard Wu Yan's whisper, but Kotori, who was closest to Wu Yan, heard it clearly. Her body shook. She looked up at Wu Yan. Kotori looked at Wu Yan's smiling face. Her mind drifted back to 5 years ago. The person who comforted her, accepted her, and saved her in the fire. The person who floated in the air, and the person who wore the sealing bracelet in her eye sockets. The blurry face that held her in his arms slowly overlapped with the familiar face in front of her eyes. Tears appeared in Kotori's eyes, but they quickly disappeared. She showed a sweet smile and said with a trembling voice, "Yes, we finally meet again." Since the first time she saw Wu Yan and recognized the sealing bracelet in his hand, Kotori has wanted to say this to Wu Yan countless times, but he doesn't seem to recognize her at all. He doesn't look like he's faking it, so Kotori dispelled the thought again and again. Her intuition told her that the person who brought her light in the fire of despair must have a reason for not recognizing her. That's how she comforted herself. Now, even though he didn't know what had happened, the words that he had hidden for 5 years had finally reached the ears of its rightful owner. And he had also received the words that he had been waiting for 5 years. Kotori felt it was all worth it. Wu Yan saw Kotori's reaction. He shook his head with a smile. He glanced at the black ribbon on Kotori's head and chuckled, "You've become very strong." Kotori nodded indifferently. She didn't seem to care about Wu Yan's praise. Of course, from her red eyes flashing with joy, she didn't really care. Everyone looked at Wu Yan and Kotori, who were having a weird conversation with each other. Kurumi and the others were confused by what they are doing. Wu Yan didn't intend to explain. He turned to Kurumi. "Kwang-san, this farce should end now." Kurumi flinched. She looked at Wu Yan in surprise. She smiled. Shido, are you trying to run away? Don't forget, the guests haven't left yet." Kurumi didn't think Wu Yan was making a declaration of victory. Everyone knows it's not that easy to defeat her. She thought Wu Yan wanted to leave the battlefield. But the truth is the opposite. Wu Yan is making a declaration of victory. It's time to end this. Raising one of his hands, Wu Yan's voice spread to every corner of the field. Everyone's eyes fell on him. "Kotori." Wu Yan put his hand in front of his chest and he shouted at Kotori. Kotori flinched for a moment before she thought of something else. She grinned in delight. "Seal. Release." Wu Yan raised his hand and the white sealing bracelet on his wrist shone brightly. The red runes around the white sealing bracelet slowly faded away until they disappeared. At the same time, Kotori, who was lying on the ground behind Wu Yan, shuddered violently. The red sealing bracelet on her wrist glowed with a bright light. An indescribable power emerged from the deepest part of Kotori's body. As if freed, it circled around Kotori's body before flowing into the sealing ring. As the power left Kotori's body, a familiar ripple emerged from Kotori's body. Psychic waves. Kurumi looked at Kotori in shock. She didn't expect the little girl she thought was just a normal human to be an elf. What's more important is that Wu Yan undid the seal on the opponent's fairy power. "Shido." Kurumi looked at Wu Yan in shock. "You allowed her to regain her elf power?" Wu Yan ignored Kurumi and looked at Kotori behind him. Kotori lowered her head. Her red ponytails fluttered. She released a scorching aura. Finally, I can get rid of these annoying hands. Kotori said softly. She raised her head, a red light flashed in her red eyes. Kwang San suppressed the shock in his heart and snorted coldly. Shido, I didn't expect you to break the rules of the banquet. Since that's the case, I'll make her pay. As soon as Kurumi finished her sentence, the pale red arms wrapped around Kotori seemed to have realized that Kotori was gradually regaining her strength. Then, under everyone's gaze, all the arms stabbed down viciously into Kotori, who was about to regain her spirit power. Several clear tearing sounds were heard. The glowing red arms pierced into Kotori's body in the blink of an eye, causing a wave of blood. Kotori, Toka, Yoshino and Shina screamed. Chapter 482. Many thanks to Dancing with the Maples, Yatsuki Chinyu and Icefire X for their tips. Kotori's body was covered in glowing red arms. Drops of blood flowed down the edges of the arms. There were bloody holes all over Kotori's body. Without a doubt, Kotori was already riddled with holes. On the side, Toka, Yoshino and Shina stared blankly at Kotori, who was covered in arms. Their faces were slightly pale and their delicate bodies were trembling. Yoshino's eyes were filled with tears and she closed them. Ha ha ha. Kwang San licked her lips and laughed crazily. She laughed until her shoulders shook. Ah, what a soft girl dying like this. How heartless, how heartless. Kurumi. Toka and Shina glared at Kwang San and struggled violently, trying to break free from the bindings. However, Toka was just an ordinary person and Shina had a serious gunshot wound. It was impossible for them to break free from Kwang San's bindings. Kurumi started laughing maniacally again. She laughed so hard that tears started welling up in her eyes. She didn't notice the mocking smile on Wu Yan's face as he stood in front of Kotori. Really? Suddenly, a cold voice came from under Kotori's lowered head, startling Toka and the others. It also made Kurumi, who was laughing wildly, freeze on the spot. Although I was mentally prepared, it still hurts to be stabbed by these disgusting arms. Kotori looked up from the glowing red arms and smiled at Kurumi. In the next moment, some blue flames that looked like will-o'-the-wisps suddenly ignited on Kotori's wounds. At the same time, the pale arms that were stabbed into Kotori's body burned into ashes. Meanwhile, the wounds on Kotori's body completely disappeared under the blue flames. What? Kurumi took 2 steps back and looked at the unscathed Kotori in shock. Her red and gold eyes were filled with disbelief. She didn't expect that the other party was also in existence with an immortal body. Kotori. Toka and the others breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the recovered Kotori with joy. Just a moment ago they thought Kotori would die just like that. Kotori smiled, her red eyes looked at the arms on Toka and the others. A cold light flashed in her eyes. She raised her hand and waved it at the arms. Flames spread towards the pale arms of 10 Fragrance and the others, igniting all of them. At this time Kwang San regained her senses. She wanted to stop it but it was too late. She could only watch as the bindings on 10 Fragrance and the others turned into ashes. That's great. 10 Fragrances and the others looked at the disappearing pale arm with joy and stood up from the ground. One-sama. Supporting his seriously injured body, Shina came to the side of the fainted Shiori and held her in his arms. Feeling that Shiori didn't suffer any injuries, he was relieved. Kurumi. Toka clenched her fists and stared at Kurumi with her amethyst eyes. How dare you keep pressing me down on the ground? How despicable. You all. Kurumi gritted her teeth and looked at the girls who were all out of danger. She became angry. Not only was she angry that the captives were freed, but she was also angry at her own carelessness. If she wasn't distracted, how could they be free from the shackles? Kurumi knew that this feast is coming to an end. No matter if Wu Yan and the others leave or continue fighting, she won't be the final winner. The situation is reversed, Kurumi. Wu Yan glanced at Kurumi and raised his hands. The other 2 sealing bracelets on his wrist lit up. Seal. Release. As the command to lift the seal sounded, both Toka and Yoshina felt that the source of their spiritual power had returned to the sealing bracelet on their wrists. The familiar power of the elves had also begun to return. She clenched her fists and closed her eyes to feel the power in her body. She suddenly raised her hand and opened her eyes again. She let out a soft cry. Alchemy spirit equipment? Toka Adanamarek. In the sky, a huge whirlpool suddenly appeared. All the clouds were sucked into the whirlpool and turned black and gray. At the center of the whirlpool, a purple-black flash of lightning descended and landed on 10 Incense's body. Under the lightning, Toka's clothes were all taken off. The lightning turned into light and attached to Toka's body. When the light dissipated, a purple ceremonial armor appeared on Toka's body. Sandalphon, 10 Incense stomped on the ground, and a purple light quickly spread into the ground. A ferocious crack appeared in the rock layer behind 10 Incense. As the purple light surged, the crack slowly shattered, and a golden throne flew out and stood behind 10 Incense. There was also a giant sword on the throne. He pulled out the giant sword. When the giant sword was pulled out, the golden throne disappeared. Toka stepped on the ground and swayed 2 steps. The giant sword in her hand pointed at Kurumi. Alchemy spirit equipment? Toka Elohim Sanbin. A soft call came out of Bono's mouth. Bono closed its eyes and leaned back a little. A burst of cold air was emitted from Bono's body. It wantonly reverberated around Bono's body. A thin layer of ice formed on the ground. Under the cold air, Toka's clothes began to fall off, revealing her petite and cute body. The cold air turned into mist and flew to Toka's head. Droplets of water fell on Toka's body and turned into a layer of film. Finally, a green hooded cloak with rabbit ears and a furry ball appeared on Toka's body. Frozen puppet, Satkiel. The 4th bunny stretched out a hand, raised it high above its head and then smashed it on the ground. Following the 4th bunny's action, an intense cold light flashed from the ground. The cold light emerged from the ground, and a huge rabbit-shaped puppet appeared in front of the 4th bunny. For nimbly jumped onto the back of the rabbit-shaped puppet and inserted both hands into it. The eyes of the rabbit-shaped puppet suddenly lit up. It looked at Kurumi and breathed out cold air. Alchemy spirit equipment? Toka Elohim Jabor. Boom. A raging fire burned Kotori and wrapped around her body. Her clothes were instantly burned by the fire. She spread her arms like a phoenix spreading its wings and the fire turned into a feathery kimono. A silk ribbon floated on top of the kimono with sparks burning on the edges. A pair of horns were embedded on both sides of Kotori's head and a pair of black ribbons wrapped around them. It looked very powerful. Scorching devil, camel. Kotori raised her arm and the flames on her body spread from her body to her hand. Then they burned and expanded. After a while, when the flames dissipated, a huge black and red battle axe appeared in her hand. She swung it with both hands and the 2 edges of the battle axe were burning with fierce flames. Toka, Yoshino and Kotori all turned into fairies. They also showed their spirit equipment and angel at the same time. Their combat power is fully displayed. This also means that the strongest combat power has gathered. To be continued. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.